Okay, good morning. Oh, it was intense last night. And here's the thing, I don't even anticipate things being that intense because it's not like, I get warnings like being bloated and I'll think like, okay, it'll be over with. And I might get little warnings of maybe being a bit hungry or having a spur of energy or having some novel thought process that I hadn't thought of before, or made the connections that I hadn't made before. So I might get a little bit of warning here and there. There's something's going on. Some kind of something is afoot. There is what is it? There's a disturbance in the force. But I can't always even anticipate the amount of pain that could happen on an occasional basis. And I'll tell you, last night was one of those times where I did not even anticipate the amount of pain I would have been in last night. I couldn't even tell you that I even had that kind of pain before. I may have had it at different times where, let's see what kind of pain. It was basically like an arthritic pain in my legs, in my arms, in my shoulders, and I felt my lymph nodes and my armpits were opening up. And it was like when someone says, when they can tell the weather's going to change, they have arthritis in their hands, or they have pains in other areas when they anticipate the weather changing. And so that's what it felt like last night, was that all of my joints, all of my nerve, all of my joints felt like there was a massive weather change. And there is. We went from a 71, almost 80 degree weather from last week, where it was hot and sweating and all that stuff, to now we're down to 49, maybe will be even less than that this week. Will be 29 degrees this week. Right now it's 49. And there's going to be another massive, extreme shift in fluctuation as far as the temperature. When temperatures fluctuate that aggressively, where it's not like waves, but it's major mountains, like seriously more than hills and valleys, because hills and valleys sounds like, oh, it's a nice little flow. No, it's like, it's like rising up to the heat, and that's aggressive. And then the temperature drop, that's aggressive. And people's immune systems feel it. They can't get ahead of the energy, and that's where you get the died suddenlies. That's what I'm saying. You have to build up your body for this environment. You have to eat all foods. You can't be afraid of food. You gotta literally rest and release the demons, the way I have in my book, through your immune system, and not taking anything aggressive, like even the J juice, because you don't need that anymore. Yeah, you need salt, and of course you need water, not necessarily together. You can put the salt in your food and drink milk and eat meat and all that stuff. But now things really have to change drastically for those who are way behind the eight ball. Someone like my husband, I'm telling you, he's a strong ass dude, very strong. And so people like my husband are like, yeah, okay, Jillian, or they are managing their disease with the traditional stuff and it's working relatively okay. I don't know everything, what happens every day, but it's not a big deal for people like my husband who are bigger boned, were raised and born in something like on Appalachian food in Appalachian country, and are used to the weather fluctuations. They were conditioned for it. It's still taking me some time to get used to even how aggressive they can be. Okay? But I'll tell you, man, now is the time for people to realize that when you're skinny, you have to add the weight to. Now, if you're living in places like Florida or California, you might get away with being skinny and being okay. But I'm telling you, even the heat and the fluctuations, even in California and Florida and the warmer parts of the world, you still have to keep up with the energy of the environment, and you have to feed it, and you have to release the demons, and not using J juice, not using any other kind of detox, and not being afraid of food. And now you really have to realize that you can't play these games. You can play the games you want to play, whatever you want, if you don't really care about living indefinitely. If you're just trying to survive and hope you make it another day, and you're gambling, then hey, do whatever, play the games you want. But I'm telling you, when you have an intention to survive, you will understand the power and the need for all food. Like, I'm serious. you will understand the power and the need for all food. And you won't be playing games with, oh, this food is poison, that food is poison. Oh, watch out for this. Oh, watch out for that. No, you'll realize that your life is on the line now. Your life is fucking precious. Even those in hospice won't say their regrets because it's too late now. They're pretty much, they're done. It's just a matter of time before another wind blows and they take them out. But when you are like in palliative care, or when you're finally been told you can't be treated anymore by anything, now not only are you in regret, but now you're doing the Hail Marys. And that's where people fuck up, is they wait until they are untreatable. And then they do the Hail Marys and they don't have what it takes to survive the fucking pain. Because last night when I got up to go to the restroom and I woke up in massive amounts of fucking pain, oh my God. I woke up so sore as if every single joint in my body was going like, yeah, you're having arthritis right now for this moment in time. Now, when people have chronic pain, as far as what we diagnose as arthritis, that would be something that they would choose to either ride it out, feed it, release the demons, and potentially maybe down the road not have that on a chronic condition, but it might happen occasionally, and who's to say how long and how far in the future or whatever. But when those say, okay, well, I don't want to ever deal with any more pain ever again, that's when they start dismantling and disabling their immune system. They treat their disease, but it also compounds it, and it ends up in rest and peace. That's what happens with those who treat disease, is that it becomes compounded, they age out aggressively, become addicted to different types of drugs because that's the only thing that can give them some kind of relief and their life back, whatever that is, until that drug then develops an antibiotic resistance in that person. And that person doesn't survive because they OD. That's why there's all these overdoses that you hear about even today, is that people are in so much pain. They're now doubling and tripling their intake. And the body can't handle it. They produce so much offspring, it basically cannibalizes the person. That's what happens when you start treating your pain and disease. You end up not only becoming a drug addict, but you will OD at some point. Because you're trying to get rid of something that you can't get rid of unless you actually end your own life at your own hand. That's the only way you're going to be pain-free 100%. And I knew that it wasn't over with as far as the pain and development, because growth will always happen. Growth is just part of life, but it's how you manage that growth in your body. That's obesity. How do you manage that growth in your body, and how do you release the excessive growth so it doesn't work against you? Okay, because even so much growth can cause an all-out annihilation. That's what happened in the rat colonies. But not enough growth, then your body gets cannibalized faster. And see, that's that fine line of becoming too extreme on either end. You don't want to be too obese and you don't want to be too emaciated. You have to play that fine line in between. Well, you have to find that happy medium between too emaciated and too obese, and then fluctuate between the two and feel the pain. That's what it's going to take to survive. Or you're just going to live on what you have today. You'll keep treating your disease, because that's what people do when they don't want to feel the pain. They treat their disease until those offspring from all those remedies cannibalize a person. But you'll see indicators, whether it's a morbid obesity or it's complete emaciation. So let me just give you a synopsis of what I felt last night. So middle of the night last night, yep, I felt all the succession. What do I mean by that? Because I had hives yesterday. Okay, now I didn't have them in the middle of the day. My husband, he was home he was home and then he left to go on the truck around 2 or 3. I made that soup. It was so good. And he left. And then around 7 at night last night, I started itching. I'm like, why am I itching? I was itching like right here. Okay. And you saw the hives that were up here. They're gone now. They're not here anymore, but they were like up here. Remember how I had that hump in the back of my neck when I had that infection where I could barely even move my neck? That was like maybe last year or so. Well, I don't really have that anymore. Now my body's able to distribute the growth so it's not so concentrated in that one area back here, and it won't turn into a tumor or a cancer because I have a very active immune system, and it's fed and it's able to disperse the growth and allow it to leave the nearest exit points, like my lymph nodes, like my pee, like my poo, like blowing my nose, like coughing and itching. And so, yeah, that growth right here, and then it switched. Then it disappeared. I showed a picture when it disappeared. The welts were becoming less and less. And then it went back here, and then it switched on this side. And then there was growth on this side. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And then even right here, I felt like these hard, it was almost like they felt like they were hard nodules, like, and they were raised up. So, but there's nothing here. They're gone. But if I had a weak immune system, relatively closed immune system, where my body was not allowed to push things out and feel the pain and release the demons, I would have some kind of growth, like those people that have those big, huge growths, like those tumors that you see on Facebook, where she let something get that big, and maybe, who knows, it was overnight or over a couple weeks or months. I wouldn't say years, because who could live with a big growth like on the side of their neck for years, unless they're like under a rock or something. But growths can happen so quick, and it was that quick that there was growth here. And just as fast as it grew, it disappeared, because I fed I had oatmeal late last night. I had 3 packets of my oatmeal, and before that I had my soup, and I had like a cup of my soup, but even that day yesterday, I made the pancakes. I only had 1 pancake. That was all I had, because I was so bloated. I had a belly like you would not believe. Okay, I felt like I was pregnant, but I wasn't. But it's all that growth. So your immune system is also your gut, and that's also where, for women carry the baby in the uterus. So the stomach and the uterus are right next to each other, and they're almost kind of the same type of thing. When your gut has so much diversity in it, and it's not allowed to release the demons, yes, men get bigger bellies. That's the dad bods out there. Women also get bigger bellies. But then when that turns into sexual reproduction and eggs drop and they start ovulating and they start becoming horny and becoming the sex demon, then they're out trying to find someone to go and fertilize that egg. And so then you don't have a shit baby anymore. Now it turns into an actual baby after it's been fertilized. Okay? That's why those two systems are right next to each other. Because it's either you're going to have a shit baby and poop it out, and the prostaglandins are pushing it out and you're helping it too, so you're not developing later on some kind of actual baby if you are so inclined to get pregnant, unless you took out your, well, let's say take out your uterus, but you tie your tubes, or the guy gets vasectomized or something. But that's why those two worlds are together in women. That's why my PMS was so freaking intense so many times the last 20 years before I released those demons, because it was just the releasing the egg and going through that process, and then those two worlds were just colliding, and it was miserable. And so that's why you have to really cut women some slack, men. You men that expect everything from women, babies and sex and all that bullshit because you have your fucking needs. Now you need to fucking relax. Because women go through so much more when you think about it than men do. And men don't give women enough credit. They treat her like a piece of fucking garbage, as if she was just something to be used and abused and then thrown away. And that's why it's gearing now towards the women, because the women have been oppressed by not only their own daughters and sons, but also their husbands and wives, I guess, if you're in those non-binary relationships. And they've been oppressed by society. Forced to have kids, forced to go get a job, forced to go and do all these things. Why is it forced? Because it's all tradition. She doesn't do it, then all of the little jackals, all the little hens around her, as well as the roosters who think they have something to say, will say, oh, you got to be doing this, 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 and this. If you're not, then you're a lazy, you're stupid, you're a motherfucker. I'm telling you, I have been around so many women and men who act like that because I had to go and figure out how to fucking save myself. And then you watch people that did that. Now they are enslaving their daughters in fucked up sexual relationships that, at some point she's going to have a baby and be destroyed, or she'll be fucked to death. That's why I'm now understanding why it's the women's movement. Not that I'm trying to become a feminist and turn into a Playboy bunny and be like, oh, sexual freedom. No, because that's also their enslavement was the Playboy and the penthouse and the whole sexual freedom for women. No, that was another enslavement for women. All right? All right. I got on that tangent for a minute, but I had to get that one out. All right. So yeah, you saw how quick the growth was. It's that quick. update to this. Oh my God. So after those hives appeared and disappeared, and when it shifted to the right side or the left side, or the left side to the right side, or whatever, then there was that pretty hard nodule, and in the middle of the night, I felt the pain. And it was like having all of the arthritis all over the body. Okay? And so, as soon as that, when I released the demons yesterday, I didn't really poop yesterday. I only pooped towards the middle of the day when I'm like, okay, I gotta get something out because it's insane. I'm freaking getting bigger and bigger. This is crazy. I have to release that poop plug. And so I just made sure I was walking around the house looking for a lighter because I'm like, what happens if the lights go out and there's no heat and I have to go and light a fire, and I couldn't find any lighters in the house. But that was time when my body was like, okay, time to go and release the demon. And so that's called deamination, the removal of an amino group. And so I released some demons, and yeah, it was pretty hard packed. I'm telling you, the frequencies can cook that shit inside of you. And so you have to work at releasing that. And so once that was released, my immune system is open. It's not plugged up by that poop plug. And that's when I think when the hive appeared, the hive started appearing. Because now it's my immune system is activated. See, whenever I open up my immune system down there, it activates it so to push out the demons. If people are like, oh, I can't put my finger in my butt. I can't even understand my butt. I don't even want to deal with that. Oh my God, it makes you gay and all that other shit. So men are going to have a hard time with this. Men will probably not do this because they can't even fathom pulling out the demons out of their ass. Okay? And so I know women are going to have a better time with this than men. Some men will, but they won't say it because it's obviously a stigma. But that's the only way you're going to fucking save yourself is when you actually open up your immune system and activate it. And that down there is an immune system activation. If you don't want to activate your immune system to evolve, then you'll do what you do. And if what you do is productive for you and you're not getting taken down by too much disease all the time, and my husband's like that. He won't activate his immune system down there, and I get it. He does his pooping and all that stuff, and he eats his food, and he gets up early in the morning and does his boating stuff, and does all of his stuff, and goes off to work and can be up all night long. I mean, he has an amazing stamina in so many ways. Fine, just stay until your immune system starts breaking down and you start getting sicker because your body wants to evolve, but he's not there yet. And I'm glad he's not there yet because I don't want him to be suffering too much because I understand he's not used to that kind of suffering. I am, so I'm like, whatever. Some men who don't have his lifestyle, who are at home more than not, could afford to activate their immune system and save themselves if they're willing to go through the process. Okay? So anyways, so I activated my immune system, and that's when all the growth happened. And that's when I felt the pain, and I was going like, F. Because I'm like, holy shit, this really sucks. And I was just yelling at the freaking wall. So what are you going to do? You got to release the energy. And that also includes you having to express yourself. And so that's what I'm saying. You have to open up your immune system because, yeah, cancer can happen overnight. Tumors and growths can happen overnight, just like that. Okay? And diagnosable conditions and all that stuff can literally happen overnight. So that's why I'm saying once you finally do activate your immune system, now you have to allow Pandora's box, literally and figuratively, be open so your body can release, because you have been enslaved by the gods of 6,000 years ago who figured out how to bioengineer you and also commandeer your immune system by not teaching you how to characterize your symptoms correctly. And so then you compound the problem by causing more diversity in your body. Because every single time you take a remedy, or you do a surgery, or you do a detox, or you take a supplement, or you do any of those things that you see in the holistic world and in the conspiracy world, when they're all about remedying their symptoms away, they develop more offspring, whether it's microbially or it turns into sexual reproduction. They become a predator because now they're looking for someone to inseminate. If it's a man, or if it's a woman, she's looking for a guy to impregnate her or whatever. Okay? And then that's when people declare war on each other. They become a predator and a victim and a predator. They're interchangeable, and they start hunting each other. And that is the marriage, that is relationship, that is what families do to their daughters and sons. They force them into indentured servitude through traditions. And then I see people's wedding pictures, And you could see how that girl was trained in that family. She was trained to be a sex demon with some education. Yes, she has a degree. And you know what that role in her family in that relationship. And you can tell by the poses in some of these wedding pictures that people post. You can tell exactly what got them together. She knew how to get them off. And the kicker and the cherry on top is, oh, she has a degree and she comes from a nice family. But now she's enslaved. Yeah. So anyways, so I blew my nose this morning so much, and I even coughed last night a little bit. And of course I released the demons the way I have in my book, using my immune system. Okay? And so things are much better now. But during that process, and I was making connections about so many other things, that process was hell. That was hell and damnation. See, I knew there was a connection between hell and damnation, which is all the hellfire, right? All those evangelists are like, oh, hellfire and damnation, you can go to hell, you do this, that, right? Hellfire, yes, is when your body's producing so much life during a frequency change. And then damnation or deamination is losing a group of molecules. What is it? Amino acids? Amines. It's a group of, nitrogen and lone pairs of electron valences that are like odd, whatever, how they're positioned in the atom and all that. And I studied that even a couple years ago. But when I saw the word deamination through the word uracil, because uracil is what causes the breakdown, which gives you the evolution, and that breakdown turns into ammonia through your urine. That's why sometimes your urine smells like ammonia, because your body is really breaking down from, we're in climate change. Why do you think people are dying during climate change? Because their body's breaking down. They're not feeding themselves because they're afraid of fucking food. And so the body is turning into ammonia while it's releasing. They're going through a deamination process. And that's also the uracil. That's your evolution. That's entropy. Okay, then you have to understand that you have to eat all food. People are saying, oh God, food's poison. Look at all the people in the holistic world. Food's poison, stay away from this food. Don't eat meat, milk, cheese, eggs, and only eat this and all that. Yeah, they're being deaminated out of existence. Or they're so obese, there's so much to them, that eventually even that heat is going to melt off. When you think about it, it's going to turn the tendons, right? Turn all the collagen into gelatin. And then they're all squiggly and wiggly and probably gain more weight. And they are losing infrastructure. They become a blob. That's what obesity is when everything turns into jelly because all that heat and no one's releasing and they're not really eating because they're afraid of food. Or they turn into an emaciated skeleton. They turn into someone who is then like, you see, the Wicked Witch of the East and the Wicked Witch of the West. They turn into basically a Disney fucking character. That's why when you saw the Princess Catherine and Prince William, they look like Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty when they got married. I'm just like, are they fucking with us? No, that's exactly what you're actually witnessing. Is you're out there in the population, everyone is playing a Disney character. A witch, a warlock, a princess, a prince, some ogre, okay? And you can look at them. I mean, I was even Googling Andre the Giant, and I was watching The Princess Bride the other day, and I'm like, Andre the Giant, he was one of the giants. There's other giants that have died in the past. And Shrek was mirrored after some guy somewhere that looked like, a big ogre. And so some people actually look like ogres, or even look like Brutus and Popeye, or even look like Popeye. All right? And so hell and damnation, damnation. Oh my God. And so you see now where I'm making all these connections with words. That's why you have to read something other than all the bullshit out there. You got to read Wikipedia. You got to read the dictionary. You got to read encyclopedias. You got to read, people. How are you going to freaking develop new worlds even in your own world if you don't fucking read? Or are you going to keep regurgitating all your conspiracy, bullshit out there? You can become a parrot. You see, last night I was responding to an article about conspiracy, like this guy who completely now is like, was a conspiracy theorist and it was talking about the 2012 Olympics and everything else and was going into groups and doing that. And then all of a sudden he just like completely flipped and said it's all bullshit. Or said that he, it was dangerous to think this way and all this other stuff. And so they mixed in the 2012 Olympics opening ceremonies and all that symbology to then the whole pedophile network and all that stuff. And so when they juxtaposition those two things together and put them together as a conspiracy stuff and then say, okay, it's all bullshit, then I'm like, yeah, hello, discernment. You can choose which one you want to fucking believe. You don't have to throw out the baby with the bathwater. And then people are like, oh gosh, what is it? I don't know. They were saying something and I was just like, if you don't want to believe that storyline, develop your own storyline. If you can either believe the mainstream narrative or the conspiracy theory narrative, okay, fine. Or wait, hold on. Here's the novel thought. Why don't you develop your own narrative about something, about those two worlds, the mainstream and the alternative and the conspiracy and whatever, and merge them all together and figure out how to take some information and maybe pull out another piece of information. Say, okay, well, I believe in this, but not this, but about doing this. It's no different than playing, chemistry. You add a little bit of this here, but you make sure you're not adding in too much volatility or you can get explosions, and you don't want to do that in a lab. But you bring things together that are not so volatile, and you develop a storyline that's not so inflammatory and so volatile, but it doesn't insult people's intelligence. And so someone comes by and goes like, oh my God, and you have all these trolls that want to convert, that want to say, want to do this, want to do that. And you're just like, whatever. If you don't like the storyline, but if you do like the storyline, fine, regurgitate it. But then you're so narrow, you're putting your blinders on when you only have one fucking storyline that you belong to, and that's it. And you're not exploring other storylines, because there's probably 1,000 storylines that you could be considering and then developing your own thesis. That's creativity. Right now, people are so uncreative, they're just regurgitating somebody's meme, somebody's quote all the time, or somebody's thought process all the time. But it takes practice developing your own thought process, storyline, or how you want to perceive 5 different storylines. How you want to take from a little bit of all those and develop something of your own. And if you can't develop something of your own, then yeah, you'll be a robot. You'll be a bot, a sex bot, a story bot, some kind of robot that is just straight regurgitation. Fear, 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 and hate, 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 and fear, 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 hate, 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 diet, 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 and let me go and try to convert somebody into whatever it is that you were told was to be true, and it's the only truth, right? So, deamination is removal of an amino group from amino acid or other compound. And so last night, I was feeling my body pushing all that shit, that growth, okay, so there's growth, but what was that growth doing? Well, that growth could also be, then there was damage from the frequency shift, and there was excessive growth, then the body has to regulate it. Doesn't mean it's really doing damage. I mean, it can if it's too much, right? So then the body has to regulate the hormone production and distribution. And so then there's other antibodies that my body has to go and figure out and then corral the excessive hormones, growth, offspring from that frequency shift. And I'm feeding it too, so it's growing, developing, and making connections. I'm thinking, and so then it has to release the damage, the excessive stuff. And so the prostaglandins, which is the same hormone that helps a woman push out a baby, which also is the same hormones that help you push out the shit, okay, when you're coughing, sneezing, and blowing your nose. And then it's the same hormones that you feel pain and arthritis, menstruation, or other types of inflammation, redness, swelling, okay? So what are the prostaglandins and what is their function? And I talked about this a couple of years ago, prostaglandins. I was focusing only on prostaglandins. I was completely just so immersed in prostaglandins because that was also connected to the pain mechanism. And I had to understand pain. I had to understand prostaglandins. I had to understand everything. And I was studying everything at the micro level and isolating it and just like completely immersing myself in it and understanding. And that's what it's going to take. is if you want to understand the world you live in, you have to take one little idea or one little word and you immerse yourself in that word and understand it from all the different contexts. And then that will be in your mind. And even though you may not understand the connections with that one word, as you release all the bullshit out of your body and you release the demons and you finally give yourself room to develop more ideas, then you remember that word prostaglandins. You remember what the function, you remember the connections, and all of a sudden you start making the connections. That's developing new neural pathways. When you allow your body to make room for new information, you develop new neural pathways. So what happens out there in the population is they're destroying their neural pathways. They're curing themselves to death. So the environment breaks them down. That's what happens to those who are aging out, completely obese, as well as emaciated. Those neural pathways are breaking down, and then you see them just repeating the same stuff, like a robot, like a broken record. Now look at your Facebooks, people. Are you saying anything differently at all? Are you saying anything that is even remotely different than what you've been saying? Because I will say that I will look at 90% of the Facebooks out there, and it's a broken record. A broken record. There is no new thought, no new neural pathways are being developed. And people say, well, I'm not ready yet. I'm still, well, okay. People could be releasing demons and they're not feeding their minds anything new or different. They're not making any connections. They're not exercising their ability to develop anything of substantial, of even just an aha for something in their world that they didn't know about. Maybe it's already known out there in smaller circles and high levels of education, but you as a person, you know what you know and you know what you don't know. And I'm telling you, when you have an aha moment in the areas that you didn't know about, I could imagine you wouldn't want to keep that to yourself. When you develop those aha moments, which basically are new neural pathways for you, that's how you know that now you're on your way from being deteriorating and becoming a warlock, or becoming a wicked witch of the east and the west, or becoming a blob, to now finally becoming human the way you were meant to be before somebody got to you and commandeering your immune system to make you a slave for whatever industry that you're in today. So, prostaglandins, okay? They are a group of lipids with hormone-like actions that your body makes primarily at site of tissue damage or infection. There are several types of prostaglandins and several types, okay? So you can Google that. I did all the research, I wrote about them, but there's so much. I'm telling you, I was basically regurgitating, but it was like getting to know the information. Not that I would remember all the different ones, because that's so much information, right? But there are several types of prostaglandins, and they play several essential roles in regulating bodily processes, including blood clot formation at the site of the injury, and also pushing stuff out. So how do prostaglandins make you feel? Prostaglandins play a role in inflammation by contributing to the development of redness, swelling, heat, and pain. Excess production of prostaglandins due to inflammation may lead to arthritis, heavy menstrual bleeding. Okay, so when you have chronic pain, it's because you have a relatively closed immune system. You're not releasing the demons. And then you're compounding it with all your supplements, your remedies, your detoxes, your herbal concoctions, your elderberry syrup. These mothers and fathers are setting their kids up to fail when they are forcing antibiotics, natural or synthetic, down their kids' throats so they can keep performing until they fall down dead. But can you tell a parent that? No, because it's like, it's too much for them. It literally is too much for them. So I started watching, I'm going down my timeline now. So I started watching a video. It's a long video, and I'm just like, okay. And I was also watching Donut Factory, that guy that was talking about the ritual thing with Chandler Bing and Matthew Perry. Yeah, I've studied that side of it. There's a lot of people that are pretty much heavily into the whole Illuminati ritual stuff and all the numbers. And yeah, I was down that road. I'm not saying that I don't believe it. I'm not saying I do believe it. I'm just saying that everything is true and everything is not true, and you choose. What do you mean everything is not true? Because it all depends. If you want to believe in, like, okay, if you want to stay on the side of that, yes, he died from, like I've been feeling, all the growth and all of that, but was that growth and all that encouraged because of frequencies, because of whatever? And some people are already hanging by a string. It's just a matter of time before you influence the environment and then cause that string to break. at certain times. I couldn't tell you. There's no proof that there's anything that is nefarious or conspiracy-like and whatever. So, you can believe in the official story that yes, he died of heart, which he probably did, because I felt the growth last night. So you figure that out. And it was horrible. So I can only imagine if someone like Chandler Bing or Matthew Perry already is dealing with depression and other things, and then something happened to influence him where he dies in the bathtub. Okay, but then, because the conspiracies go all the way into the script writing back in the Friends era. Okay, fine, whatever. But anyways, I was listening to both that side of it, and I'm remembering what I studied the last 12 years, and I know what I feel the last 7 years, and then I'm also listening to Enki Return is Now, Ancient Eridu, 450,000 years in the making, a new timeline of Sumerian history. So I'm also reading that, or listening to that on YouTube. Okay, so I listen to a lot of different things. All right, I listen to a lot of different things. I don't worry too much about what could potentially happen as far as meteorites and things like that. Things are happening in the Middle East. Frequencies are shifting. People are dying or contracting cancer disease and chronic illness. You got to listen to indicators, but also develop a thought process, develop a way, develop something. Make new neural pathways is what I'm saying. Okay, so anyway, so the frequencies changed again. I was feeling bloated. Okay, I said that already. Okay, well, I mean, yeah. Okay, so the welts are pretty much gone. Okay, so you saw that post about the left side and the right side, and you saw what they look like. They look like bug bites, but they're not. They happen from the inside out, not from the outside in. And so what is uracil? And so I said uracil and then deamination with removal. So the removal of an amino group from an amino acid or other compound. Well, what's an amine or an amino group? In chemistry, the amines are compounds and functional groups that contain a basic nitrogen atom with a lone pair. Okay, amines are formally derivatives of ammonia, wherein one or more hydrogen atoms have been replaced by substituents such as an alkyl or an aryl group. Now you can Google those words. I had to Google the lone pair. What's a lone pair? In chemistry, a lone pair refers to a pair of valence electrons that are not shared with another atom in a covalent bond. There's covalent, ionic, and covalent bonding. You learn that in chemistry and all that stuff in physics. And it's sometimes called an unshared pair or a non-bonding pair. Lone pairs are found in the outermost electron shell of atoms, and they can be identified by using a Lewis structure. And I've made pictures of where I placed the atoms and they were odd or they were even. If they were even, then that was like cured. When they were odd, there was chemistry going on. Okay, everything happens at the micro level. When you're taking a shit or peeing, that's deamination on some level, because you're releasing a molecule or a group of molecules. In the world of humans, you're releasing trillions of molecules. So everything is relative, right? And so a lone pair, right? So a Lewis structure is a very simplified representation of the valence shell electrons in a molecule. It is used to show how the electrons are arranged around individual atoms in a molecule. Electrons are shown as dots or bonding, or for bonding electrons as a line between two atoms, okay? So you can go all the way down from the total micro to the subatomic particles all the way to a human, an object, a huge celestial body, to however as large you want to be. Was it the orders of magnitude? Okay, so everything can be associated at the micro level as far as, the deamination, releasing a molecule, or jacking off, or having an orgasm, or shitting, or yelling, or hurting yourself and you're releasing blood. That's a type of, when you think about deamination on some level. And then or entropy, but I mean, not like technically, because there's a specific process with deamination. But that's kind of the same thing. You're releasing molecule groups. Okay? And so then it is, then you bounce out with negentropy. All right? Negentropy. Okay. And so, okay. I thought I saw my husband try to call in. I think he hung up as soon as I figured I was online. And so anyways, And so I was thinking last night before I was showing you all that. So when you see the hives, and then you see the post that I had before the hives, and I'm being run by energy. Like there's massive amounts of energy that are coming through my environment. And so it's causing then the new neural pathways and my thought process, my thoughts. Like when people are like serial killers and energy comes to the environment and that is their platform, their core of who they are, is they're going to be a serial killer. They will then start developing a plan to go find their next victim. Okay? If somebody is studying, for history or something else, then this energy comes through and they're not being taken down by a disease or a cancer, then they'll be studying that history and passing tests. And so that energy, you got to channel that energy into something that's going to work for you, not work against you. It's not going to destroy someone else. That's going to help you. And so last night I was channeling that energy through this post, through those hives. Okay? And so I said, I bet you they had the same type of aggressive frequency changes back in the 1960s during the Vietnam War. Right? Because the girls were skinny. What spurred me on? Because I'm looking at people on Facebook and these hot girls are all skinny, looking like they're like Twiggy and Cher back then. And I'm thinking like the Vietnam War, all the frequencies, they had the weather modification back then, all the drugs, the LSD, all the gurus and the cults and all the organic bullshit and the cannabis, like I said, psychedelics and the communes and the against the war and the civil rights and all that. I'm like, we're repeating history totally. Of course we are. All right. So I bet you that they had the same type of aggressive frequency changes back in the 1960s during the Vietnam War. Yeah, they had crazy weather events, skinny hot chicks, a lot of drug overdoses and drug usage. There's obviously vast amounts of crazy sex, serial killers and cult leaders, organic commune promotion, the split between the squares and the hippies, the mainstream and even the alternative mainstream activists. And then of course, of course they're all about hippies. And so there's still that going on right now. And then there's people who are like, okay, it's time to get away from both of the squares and the hippies because they're both completely brainwashed right now and radicalized. And so how do you walk away from that war? You have to do it very carefully. And so lots of death, but it was justified through the war and the sexual, cultural, civil rights revolution. History is repeating right now. You saw the kickoff back in 2019, 2020, all the riots. Okay? That wasn't that long ago. George, whatever that guy's name is. And his name is George? Oh, I forget. And that guy, I forget his name. He's a young kid that was also exploited by Fox News and everything. So there's a lot of death going on. Died suddenly. Now we're blaming on the V's. Okay, whatever. And all the frequencies, which, okay, I'm telling you, everything is connected. There's a factor to everything. Now I'm trying to give you guys an opportunity to survive it. Okay, so I'm telling you, everything is true. Everything is not true. It doesn't matter whether it's true or not true. Are you going to fucking survive whatever belief system you hold? Are you going to survive it? And what are the indicators? The fact that you're alive doesn't mean much. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. Because you could die tomorrow. So are there any indicators that you're going to survive another frequency shift? Or are you just gambling because you keep taking your cannabis and your remedies and your detoxes and you're still spewing the same bullshit, the same broken record, okay, type of stuff. And so I told you the indicators are that if you get an aggressive disease and you don't treat it and you feed it and you pull out the crap and you eat food and you rest, that's an indicator you will probably survive the next who knows how many years of us going through this downturn, this decline, this great reset. All right. So it doesn't matter if it's true or not true. Are you going to survive your own belief system? And what are the indicators? And if you don't even know what the indicators are, then yeah, forget it. You're flying blind and you're just rolling the dice. And then one day it'd be like a rapture. You die suddenly, or you contract a disease that you will treat yourself out of existence. And that is happening, right? And so now people believe blame the deaths on the public health therapies. Of course, now we know about the grid. We didn't know too much back then in the 1960s about HAARP or CERN, but now we do. Now who is we? Well, I'd say my parents, I don't know if they might know. They might have known. Who knows? I don't know what they knew. But I knew that Charles Manson knew what was going on because he was talking about in one of his interviews on YouTube about a big machine that does stuff. And he talked a lot of interesting stuff because he knew stuff. He was told stuff. Okay? When he was supposed to be in jail, they let him out. Why? Because there was things he had to do to fulfill whatever needed to be fulfilled at the time. All right? And so back then in the 1960s, my parents, or people like them, didn't know too much about HAARP or CERN or weather modification. It was just the weather. I saw lines in the sky. When I was in the pool with my sister when we were kids, and we're looking at the sky, hanging on to the side by the steps, because we were, we had a 8-foot pool, and then it was like, 5 feet or 4 feet up in the shallow end. And we're looking at the sky, and we're looking at all the planes going by, but they were really high up, and there was a little bit of a trail behind. Okay, not a big deal. They did. Well, we were like, okay, that's just normal. But yeah, even back in the 1960s with weather modification, because they told us that. They made it really wet in Vietnam. That's why when you see in Forrest Gump, and he was going through that rain, the monsoons, it rained so much. Well, yeah, just like it has been lately. And certain times, like the El Nino, which probably is a weather modification pattern that was developed and become mainstream and normalized. Okay? All right, so what's going on right now with the chicks all over Facebook looking like Cher and Twiggy, completely deteriorating? Because how can you possibly survive a highly aggressive environment such as this for a long time if you're that fucking skinny? That's why these hot chicks that are skinny, you need more than a hamburger. You need a hamburger, cheese, oatmeal, pasta, a lot of cream, a lot of milk, and you need to cough, sneeze, and blow your nose and pull out the crap because your immune system right now is very sluggish. It needs help. You can't do things the traditional way. You literally have to help your immune system open up. And that requires a conditioning process. And it's not fun, it's not glamorous, and it's not something you would advertise. So people will never know it unless they listen to my information and maybe read my book. And I still don't go into too much detail of how I release demons. But I do say I definitely pull it out. Because sometimes it's required. Because yesterday, I was so bloated, I had to. And that's when I activated my immune system because that poop wanted to stay in the body. It was so hard packed. I'm not eating plastic. I'm not eating cardboard. But sometimes the way that the consistency of that poop in your body, wow. It was as if I was eating fucking plastic. No, because my immune system was so activated that it sucked out all the, I don't know, man. It's the energy just completely like petrified. Like when you saw out there, well, you don't see, but back when they had a nuclear blast way long time ago, 6,000, 7,000 years ago, and all those petrified animals in the shapes of humans or animals, it was just some kind of highly aggressive energy came through and petrified stuff. But not all the way in my body, because that's impossible or I'd die. But that's sometimes how the poop comes out, as if there was an aggressive energy that just almost fossilized it. Relatively fossilized it. And so then you really, when it's that aggressive, you really have to start pushing out. Once you push it out, that's when your immune system activates. And then you live to see another day. You don't pave the way for a cancer or die suddenly. Okay? Oh, God. And so how can you possibly survive a highly aggressive environment such as this for a long time when you're that skinny? And yes, we have now war in the Middle East, not in Vietnam. Girls, it might be like the 1960s and the war in Vietnam replaced the Middle East, but it's even worse because they don't have conscription, right? They're not forcing anyone to go to war. And so if you guys are all skinny, hardly anything to you, afraid of food, well, and you're voluntarily not eating food, you're voluntarily taking all your remedies and all your surgeries and all that stuff, you are conscripting yourself into a war by prematurely doing damage to your body as if you already knew the outcome of that fight is you were going to be damaged. And that's what's going on right now. People are purposely employing themselves in the wars out there and coming out voluntarily damaged. Voluntarily. That's some pretty heavy psychological programming going on. And we have really skinny hot chicks out there who, yeah, they look hot. They'll ride on that hotness for however long. And they love it. Just like when they did the J juice and they didn't eat anything. They did so much J juice like I did. I'm going to tell you, when I was doing so much J juice and I stayed away from the sugar and the milk and the meat and the cheese, I was eating basically hardly anything. And I dealt with the hunger pangs, so my guts were eating itself. And you saw pictures of me. I was so skinny. I was wearing a bikini during that time. I was so skinny. But I didn't die from it because the frequencies were not that horrible back then. And I was, I still had residual reserves. But if I were to keep doing what I was doing back then today, no, I would have been dead. I would have been dead. And so, yeah, these girls are like, yeah, look, I'm losing so much weight. It's great. And they're taking Ozempic or they're just not eating. And so, yeah, they look, and they're working out. So, yeah, when you look at their profile pic, oh, yeah, they look hot. And they're ready to screw. They are ready to screw. Or get some mileage out of their hotness and they're selling you something. Oh, yeah. That was the intention. OnlyFans, Instagram. Oh, yeah. Girls, it's like the 1960s and the war in Vietnam replaced with the Middle East. And the frequencies are high, the weather is crazy, and you are doing all your drugs and prescription drugs and alcohol and sex. And now it's going to be even worse because there's no conscription. So everybody is conscripting themselves into this war, and they're coming out damaged voluntarily. And so the drugs are a lot more potent and deadlier in a highly electrified atmosphere, and people have been weakened to the last 50 years from all the rampant reproduction, developing cancer, and of course the family, babies. The system has to make up for a lack of conscription, like the Vietnam War. And so people will voluntarily, again, conscript themselves into war and voluntarily become damaged out of that war. But you have a chance if you are discerning. Now it's time to be questioning the sexual revolution, the drug revolution. Maybe it's time to be questioning the family. That's the kicker. The family was the war against humanity. That's why the whole microbial Manson family and the Manson family, he was showing you how easy it is to be a cult leader as the mother and the father directing everybody in that family to go oncology and do all the diets and be afraid of food and be afraid of this and demonize water and air and whatever. So the kids have absolutely nothing to eat and they're breaking bones left and right. And there's indicators they're breaking bones, they're breaking down. Some of these kids are not very intelligent. And so that was the war against humanity, was advocating not only, yes, sexuality, rampant sexuality to where you almost have no control of your hormones, to having a bunch of babies, to then also getting all the different pro-choice. So all three of those, high rampant sexuality, the promotion of the family, and the pro-choice is still doing damage to both the male and the female. Nobody is winning in the pro-choice, the pro-life, and the rampant sexuality. It's all major deamination, like on an aggressive level. And then these kids who are now reproduced as a weaker version of their parents, as they are dealing with disease, they're being treated to death and damaged through surgeries. And it's all condoned by the family, by the community, and it's worshipped. That's why you can't penetrate people who are that religious. And I see people on my Facebook who are like, why are people making fun of us that believe in Jesus? And, we choose to give ourselves over to God and praise God, and he died for our sins. And I understand why people are so mad about that. If we're going to die anyways, why are you so mad about that? It's not that we're mad. It's just like, we're so incredulous that people actually feel this way. We're so incredulous. It's like something foreign. And I'm telling you, I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I just shake my head. Because they're already saying they're going to die someday. They're giving their body and mind over to Christ. Okay. You have to just respect that because they're that committed. And they're okay with dying. They're completely fine with that. And me, it's not that I think they're stupid. No, I don't think they're stupid. It's like, my mind can't wrap myself around being that subservient, being that submissive. where you lay down your life, that's written. That's slavery. That is the quintessential epitome of a slave. And when you're raised in freedom, when you think about it, even though it felt like I was confined, but I was raised in freedom, but it wasn't like people thought. Because at first you have to be confined in order to understand what freedom means. And then when you're not pigeonholed into anything. I mean, yeah, I was raised Jewish, but I wasn't even taking that on as anything of substantial commitment. It's just a lifestyle and, yeah, a belief system, I guess. But I couldn't fathom. I couldn't even imagine. I mean, even me as a wife to my husband, and on some traditional level, not fully traditional. I'm not having babies and screwing him 24/7 like he would love, but he would die in that situation. I would never destroy my husband that way. Even if he wanted it, I would never do it. Or myself, for that matter. But I would not even think of being that subservient to someone where I lay down my life for a dead guy or for anyone out there. No fucking way. That's why I'm saying, it's not that we think you're stupid, we just can't. People who look at people are like, oh my God. And the only way we could even just process another person's lifestyle like that is yeah, sometimes it sounds like we're making fun or being, but no, it's just like, people are so like they want to be free, but they don't. It's crazy. It's crazy. All right. And so the family was a war against humanity. Maybe it's time not to hang out with all your friends all the time if you want to survive, right? Maybe it's time for self-care. Maybe it's time to face the pain and eat all food. Maybe it's time to eventually realize your daughters don't deserve to be indentured servants. Your sons don't have to work themselves to death. Now, we're going to need at some point during this process of transition, all the slaves are willing to be slaves. And so, yes, you have to have that religion. Whether it's like that Christianity or any other religion that says, I lay down my life and I will do my job and I will not question anything and I'll be happy with all the baubles and the little bit of money and maybe some of the vacations. And that's what keeps the backbone of the infrastructure until the system transitions to the artificial intelligence and the robots. So we don't have to enslave humans and turn people into predators and victims, okay? And so now this is the transition. Maybe it's time to eventually realize your daughters don't deserve to be indentured servants. Your sons don't have to work themselves to death, and your parents deserve to live, if not indefinitely. Hey, parents, you deserve not to be a sacrificial lamb to your children. You deserve to live more than your children. Why is that so? Because you have a lot more life experience and wisdom than they do. They are still wet behind the ears. They don't have enough life experience. But you are more of an asset because you do have so much wisdom and life experience, and if you're open, you can evolve. And it won't take that much to evolve you because you already have the foundation. Now it's just seeing if you're open to feel the pain and understand what it is and do the things that are necessary to release the demons and take in information. And wow, it wouldn't be much of an expense on anyone who would be leading you down that path. But with a child, now you're dealing with a lot of stuff and you can't force a kid to eat. I mean, so here's the thing, but very rare do I see kids smarter than their parents, but they do exist. I am flabbergasted that parents survived survived this long. I see some parents out there like, oh my God, how do they get this far in life? And their kid is smarter, but not that much smarter. All right? Because their kid is also suffering, has health issues. Everything is relative, right? Remember, parents, your life is precious too. Oh, there'll be some genetic lines that will be sterilized out of existence because they won't be able to handle it. They won't have the evolution. They won't have it. They don't have it. They don't have the actual intellectual capability to evolve. They'll be stuck with whatever was given to them, the gifts that were given to them and the curses. As the environment changes and they don't change their traditions, they'll end up just like their parents. They might have a few new gifts given to them, but then the ancestors will take them back because their family is way too important to them. And so I say parents' lives matter. If I was King Solomon, forced to make a choice between saving one person out of two drowning between a child and an adult who was relatively intellectually capable and intelligent, I would choose to save the adult. Now, King Solomon, I remember a story in my Sunday school with King Solomon when he was told to help settle a dispute between two mothers and a child. And the one mother said that woman took her child. And of course, they don't have, genetic testing back then and all that. Okay, so King Solomon had to figure out how he's going to figure out who was the actual real mother. I don't know if it's true or not, but back then, I guess, he said, well, I guess we can cut the child in half and you guys can share the child. And the mother that stepped away and allowed it to happen was not the real mother. It was a mother that wanted to protect the child. Because now that might have been very simplified. Might be more to it. But that moral of that story was it was a real mother that was the one that didn't want that kid to be split in half. But why would even the mother that wanted that kid be allowed? Because she didn't really have too much of an investment. It was more, it was, if that was going to happen, that was going to happen. She's going to have to accept it. The other one would fight for her kid. The other one didn't. Right? I guess that's what it comes down to. Go find that story if you want to find all that. But anyway, so when I make a choice between an adult and a child, and I look at the adults out there, I would rather have an adult that has the wisdom. But there's stupid adults out there. Yeah, there are. But if I was going to choose between saving someone, like a snap choice, and I didn't have all this information to make, this type of... so I would choose to save the adult. Because I'd have a better chance that adult, But then you could raise that kid and groom it. But that's a lot of work. But wouldn't it be a lot of work with an adult who you'd have to groom from square one? But that adult has substance to the body. That adult has still intelligence. That adult has wisdom. That adult could go through the processes of becoming a strong person without potentially dying in the process. Because that's why you see all these human experimentation with children. Not all children survive. I mean, not all adults survive. But if you're going to experiment on children, there's going to be some kids that are going to fall through the cracks and they're not going to survive those experiments. But when you have a relatively strong adult, the chances of survival of being trained to evolve is probably far better than some child. But again, that's no different than the story of King Solomon and the baby and the two mothers. There's probably a lot more that could be, but that's kind of where I'm coming from. I wouldn't have to work too hard with the adult, but with a child, you have to start from scratch, and you don't know where you're getting. They could be in a major deficit. You don't know where that kid came from. Today, I could probably reach people with more life experience than a young person just starting out, because the young person would think I'm just some idiot, boomer, but I'm a Gen Xer who doesn't know any better because they know better, right? When they are young and dumb and full of cum, literally, those are the demons that drive young people, sometimes over the cliff. That's why family court is brutal, because a family is brutal to each other. That's a wall I can't penetrate, and I mean that literally. It's very difficult to penetrate young people at this, as far as ideas. Their sexual hormones are what's driving them. You can even see it in the wedding pictures and the poses these brides takes. Okay, you can see it in the wedding pictures. When you see they're in the front and their boobs are out, they're like this, that's probably a sexual position that they've done because they've seen it on TV or in some porn. And the guy's behind her. And you're just like, can you be a little more obvious here? I mean, come on. We know what's going on here. We'll see how long that lasts. I hope they survive their lessons. Oh, here we go. It's right in your face. You know what she is in that relationship. You know what she is in that relationship, and she will not be allowed to change. Because when she does change, she'll either be dead or divorced. Why will she be dead? Because she'll have a bunch of babies from all that sexual stuff. She may already have deficits and issues. Her body will deteriorate. Or she changes and is like, I can't do what I did before. Or she tries to please her husband or whatever. She can't because of whatever. So then he divorces her. See, men have it so made in her because they're built like brick shit houses, so they can go through women and wives like fucking water. Women literally have to be so strong in these relationships so they can survive their husbands and their needs and survive their community, survive their family, their friends, their job. Women are in so much deficit. And they're in pain. Some women are bigger than other women, so they can bear a bunch of babies and manage everything and have a huge lifestyle and all that stuff until they're taken down by all the ways that keep them in the game. So I hope they survive their lessons. I hope I can get to someone my age or a little bit older or younger, but not too old, not too young. Because again, you get them too young, they're like, yeah, screw you. It gets too old, they're like, screw you. It's not that different. I mean, when you have boomers, like really older boomers and really young millennials, they're like two peas in a pod. You can't penetrate any of them. I might get a few Gen Xers, potentially. And maybe some late millennials, maybe. But early millennials, no. Like recent millennials, no. If someone's too old or too far gone, they're too crotchety and mean, or they love you to death. Neither is desirable for me if I want to reach anyone, right? And I'm not trying to guide anyone. I'm just seeing if I can even penetrate your thought process. If someone's too young, they're still driven by their hormones and their friends, and they're still partying. And the J world has a specific niche. I mean, I figured that out. It is a very narrow niche. That's why 500 million in the future. Because too many people are too far gone, or they're too much in deficit. Well, that's the same thing. Too far gone older, too far gone is younger. Okay. So why am I talking about sex all the time? Because sex is what is the depopulation agenda. That's what I figure out. The sex in the family is a major part of the depopulation agenda on top of the medical, holistic, energy, healing, spiritual world. But I figured out from the 1960s and the 1940s and 30s and 20s, sexuality was how the system was going to depopulate the society. Through pleasure. Through remedies. And of course, there's money involved with all of it because people are in pain. They'll pay top dollar to get rid of the pain. And if they want the gifts of speed or the gifts of mental clarity or the gifts of producing a hormone that they couldn't produce because of deficit, they would pay top dollar for the drugs. They would pay top dollar for the conditioning, whatever that is. They would pay top dollar for any type of things, designer drugs that are offered in biotech and in the energy holistic, healing world. Okay? And so then I look at the war between men and women and how it's mutually assured destruction and realize that that's also part of the depopulation. I mean, it goes the rabbit hole goes so down so deep and it's all around you. And so when this website says, what do men really want in women? And I'm like, oh, here we go. That just triggered something in me. So I just wrote this because I know what's going on. Like, I don't mind playing with my hormones occasionally, but not so often where you then become addicted to it like a drug. And people can be addictions to people. Okay? I mean, I don't mind smelling someone smoking pot every so often. I'll smell it. Okay, that's okay, but I'm not going to smoke it. I could take a sip of a beer, but not drink it. All right, so because I know what happens when you get addicted to pleasure of drinking beer, doing drugs, having so much sex. Not only becomes abuse, I'll say abusive. It becomes abused, and you become addicted, and then you want more and more and more until that drug and that beer and you and that person is used up, and they glitch, and then they're thrown away. And see, that's what men do with a lot of women. These really sexually aggressive men, they use up women. They go through them. Like, it's insane. That's vampire behavior. And so what does a man want in a woman? Well, I answer it. If he's mature, he wants a partner. And she respects herself as she respects him. And not everything is theoretically equal relative to the economics, finances, and even brute strength. Because no, I'm not equal to my husband as far as earning power. If I was a man with no PMS, no ability to have babies, right? I had a penis and I was strong and I ate beef and whatever and and I could drive a truck or throw something or throw steel or go to the office and develop, theories and all this other shit that you get paid for and running companies with nothing to get in the way of that. Yeah, I could earn just as much as him, but he's not marrying a fucking dude. He's marrying a wife. He's marrying a girl, woman, whatever, who will have a specific role. I'm not going to be the sex bomb and be fucked to death. That's not the role. I'll occasionally play with the hormones, but I'm not playing that game of becoming used and then glitched later on. And so then what is your worth, woman? What do you have to offer? Well, I can cook. My dad and my mom gave me that gift of cooking. My dad cooked in our family. He taught me how to cook. My mother taught me how to clean. Okay? She taught me how to do a lot of, I realized the programming that I went under, the yellow programming, aggressive, so I was a fighter, because that color brings out the aggression. I read that in the color programming around psychology. And it was the academics. Like academics up the yin yang. I had to study so much as a child. My sister's playing in the pool. I'm doing 13 book reports. When I lied about something, I'm writing lines. I will not lie ever again. Was it 2,000 times that I have the binder paper and I will write, I will not lie again. 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 I mean, and it was frontwards and that's brainwashing. Of course. That's programming. Okay? And so what do I have to offer to my husband? I can advise him on stuff. I can be that container to take in his frustrations as far as the job. He offers some, suggestions if there's something I can suggest. Make sure house is sort of clean, the bed's clean, so, and make sure I don't spend the money out of existence. That he, since he's the breadwinner and he's keeping me alive through food and shelter, and I helped build. See, I didn't come into this already ready-made. I didn't come into an instant family or an instant house. When we met, he was in a rental house. I had $2,500 in my pocket from a deal I made with Farmers Insurance and the district manager and that agent. I had that burning a hole in my pocket. Came over here, met him. He was in a rental house. We ended up leaving that, go to Florida to go see people that he knew down there. No, we didn't want to go over there. We went to California and we were in a hotel and then we became roommates, paying $500 a month for a room. He was in landscape and I was doing insurance. We're like, okay, this is not really going to be the future. We can't live like this. This is fucking insane. Making $200 a week. Not in California. And partying. I'm not fucking partying anymore. And so we went on the truck. And we built our life from scratch from there. Okay? So what did I have to offer? I invested my time, body, mind, and spirit at the beginning to develop the platform. That's the thing, is what are women worth? When you go into a ready-made situation, you know what you are, you're going to be the prostitute. When you go into something where you built from nothing, now you're in a partnership. And you have to remember your worth, because some people forget where they came from, where they were. Not really, And so you have to remember your worth, women. Women forget their worth because they think all they are is just a body to somebody else. To be used and abused and be reproducing kids and then thrown away. And so not everything is theoretically equal relative to economics and finances and even brute strength. It's the respect that's the foundation of mature relationships, not spending all the money out of fucking existence if you're a woman. If he chooses to be an idiot about money, he will have to figure out. And some men will spend all the money and put their whole family in debt. Some men, like Bernie Madoff, what happened? Look what he did to his family. He made a lot of money, yes, for a certain amount of time until the house of cards came crashing down. Okay? So there's some men that absolutely have no respect for their family, but they'll give their family a good time for a certain amount of time until the money runs out. Luckily, my husband is relatively smart in that area of figuring out how to keep himself happy, have the things that he wants, keep me alive, and also, play things smartly the way they do. So, anyways, it's respect that's the foundation of a mature relationship. If he's immature, he wants a blow-up doll who does his laundry and cleans his house and cooks and takes care of his kids and then replaces her when she is used up. Look at the First Wives Club. So if he's immature, he wants someone he can screw on a daily basis at the drop of a hat when he wants it. Look at Kanye West and his wife. Basically, / prostitute. There's probably a very ironclad prenup. You know what she's used for? Yeah, absolutely. To be used. He wants a blow-up doll if he's immature. If he's a pseudo fake modern man, he wants her to have a good job. Take care of the kids too, because, that's her role. Clean the house or hire a cleaning lady. Get him off, or maybe even have a nanny and get him off. But as soon as she can't get him off for whatever reason, right? That's when the whole relationship goes to shit. Or she has to go to counseling or take drugs in order to figure out how to get him off or whatever. I mean, I hear stories out there. I've heard stories out there. I've heard stuff. People have told me stuff over the years. The shit they've gone through when they're doing the J world and they're in shitty situations. And I've heard so much stuff about people's marriages, about people's relationships, even through the grapevine, even, if someone's saying something else about what goes on. Okay? But as soon as he or she cannot provide that sexual gratification to that significant other, that's when the whole relationship goes to shit. And then someone is pegged to have something wrong with them. And that's why people also destroy themselves through that type of pressure from not only their significant other, but also their community. Because then you see all these guys like, oh yeah, I have sex every fucking day, and she does whatever the hell I want. And the girl goes, yeah, I give my husband sex every single day, and I get him off, and he's so happy, and I let him do whatever he wants. And so people think that's the norm, that's what you're supposed to do. And so when you're not doing that, then people are like, oh, something's wrong with you. There's something wrong with you. You need help. You need to go see a sex therapist. That's the brainwashing. That's why you have to get away from your friends and family, because they will destroy you with that type of ideology. Because the man or the woman's going to be like talking to her friends. Oh, my husband or wife can't get me off. Oh, God, I have an issue. Oh, my God. Talk smack when they're drunk or not. Or they confide in one of their friends. Oh, my husband or wife can't get me off. What do I do? What should I do? Oh, have her go see the sex therapist. Or have her take this drug. I'm telling you, that's the jail people are in. That's the slavery women and men are both in. And they reinforce that slavery by making sure that the overseers are their friends and family, reinforcing those belief systems. And when you're surrounded by people who reinforce the destruction of you and of your genetic line, that's when people finally say, okay, screw it. I'll just be drugged out and just let somebody cannibalize me until there's nothing left. And then when that person finally fights back, then the guy or the girl is like, oh, you're not what I thought. I have to divorce you. I have to leave you. Because you're not giving me what I expected, what I needed. Yeah. That's why relationships are wars. So you better have something way more than your body. And you better have some negotiating power. If you like the person, I mean, you could walk away. But if you are one of those where like, okay, I like the person, there's a way for us to still maintain. It doesn't have to be like, well, if you don't do what I do, if you don't be like what I mean, then I'm just going to walk away. No, a person dumping someone, a person walking away, well, they're going to have to choose. But, if you really do respect the person, they're not really damaging you when you think about it, then you can negotiate an amazing type of relationship. But you have to set the boundaries, because it's not about, because, oh God, I'm trying to figure out how to say this without making someone think that they have to stay in a relationship that's so fucked up in their world. And I'll tell you, there's such degrees of fucked upness that some people need to leave. Others, they don't need to leave. They just need to renegotiate the contract. And that's, everyone's going to figure that out. When is it time to leave, and when is it time to renegotiate the contract? Whether it's a verbal, written, or an assumed contract. How do you renegotiate your own contract within your own marriage, within your own relationship, even with your friends? Because friends are like, oh my God, you have to do what I say and do what I do, and if you get it, then I'm going to make you feel guilty or laid on thick or some other shit. And that's hard, renegotiating contracts with people. And people are not very good at negotiating anything for themselves. They just kowtow to whoever, and they just get destroyed. They lay down their life. And that's a pretty shitty existence when when people lay down their life for their friends, their family, their husband, their wife, and get walked all over, they get screwed to death, and then everyone is worshiping that situation. It's all psychological, I'm telling you, and it's also physical. And so as soon as she or he can't get him off, that's when the whole relationship goes to shit. Because that was the whole foundation. The relationship had nothing more than a sexual contingency of self-worth. And then there's an actual article about that. I'm all for redefining a relationship that actually promotes literal life, not baby life, not torturing someone through the deterioration of process, through the deterioration process, and then burying them later on. Women need to do better and figure out they're more than just their holes. Women, you need to do better. You are the one that sets the tone in that family. If you value your life like you say you do, you will figure out how to stay alive and still keep that relationship relatively maintained. Men and women do not have to be the human sacrifice in any relationship. But they would have to think of themselves as a whole lot more than just a piece of ass or some object to cuddle to death. Because that sexual energy can be converted into life, not a child or a semen or an egg, but your own life and innovation and longevity. And you can still enjoy him or her and the world in such a different way. And you can still relate to other men and women without destroying women and men or anything else. It's when all the hens get together. Oh, the girls, it's time to have the girls' night out, a girls' situation, sleepover, all this stuff, right? It's when the hens get together with the other hens and they talk amongst each other and they talk smack about other women and about men and maybe even their husbands. They confide in each other. Oh, I'm having a problem here. And the roosters get together with other roosters. They jock and whatever. Fine, okay. But that's the reinforcement of the jail that people are in, of the destruction of not only themselves but their own family, is when the hens get together and the roosters get together, reinforcing that division between them and complaining about how they're not sexual and they don't love me, blah, blah, blah. And then because they always have and so they have no idea how to relate to each other because they always have their crew to fall back on, which is why men and women have a hard time relating to each other in a really authentic way. And so if that's kind of your relationship, then you develop yourself and you just take what you can get from whatever that relationship is. And you can still be a major contributing member and still always try to evolve and make things better. Because there's always room to grow. If people have to do what they have to do and they have to go and hang out with their guy friends and they're not cheating on you, but they're hanging out with their guy friends because that's what they need to do. My husband, he goes and hangs out with his fisherman buddies. He fished a lot this last season. He's probably not going to fish this season, so hopefully he'll get some stuff taken care of and everything. But if that doesn't happen, I mean, it's whatever. I let him be what he needs to be for himself. And I also do whatever they can to support myself and to support what we have built together. And it's always an ever-evolving situation. Nothing's ever set in stone. It's always ever-evolving. Okay? And so sometimes that may even be just the case. So you have to develop yourself, women. And so it's right in your face. So they end up destroying each other at some point, right? And so that's called the funeral, divorce, or separation. That's what I'm saying. I'm not going to be the one to take away my husband's pain. I'll let him say, okay, call 911, or I'll call 911 if you're having a heart attack or a stroke, because that's what he told me to do. Okay, I'll do it. All right, but I'm not going to be the one to take him down. I'm not going to make him work himself to death. I don't need too much. Food, a computer, and a phone. So I have a way for him to reach me. I can Google information to help move this family forward and myself forward. I need food, paid some of the bills, but I don't go out to the bars. I don't go hang out with a bunch of girls. I don't do a bunch of extracurricular activities. I don't make him work harder than he has to. If he has all these hobbies, which he's, traded from CB radio now to bass fishing, and he wants to spend his money on fishing stuff and fishing and doing shit, hey, he works for that. Okay? But as soon as, see that, and that's the thing too, is like, we don't always have to keep making so much money to the point where everyone's working themselves to death. There's got to be a way where you meet your bill, make your bills with not having to work so much. But if you want to have so many of the extras, then you have to work for it. But you don't have to enslave somebody else. And that's the thing with relationships too, is that how much do you really need? What are your goals? And because if we're both working 24/7, yeah, we can get the house fixed up easier and faster, but then are we really fixing up the house? Who's going to be here to really, I mean, that's the thing. There's ways to do it where we both can be around and do it without killing each other. Because that's what it comes down to, is survival. If you're both working yourselves to death, yeah, you might fix up the house nicer and have a nice parties and a bunch of stuff, then you both die. So somebody has to save themselves, and then also make sure they don't work the other person to death as they are trying to save themselves by not having to kill themselves out there in the workforce. And so that's my position, so you understand that. Okay? And if he chooses to lessen his hours and lessen his hobbies, then that way he can get his life back too and deal with the pain. But again, everyone makes a choice. If he ever is down because of something, then I'll end up working on some level. And so, but you'd have to really take a back seat to all that. Actually, we would have to give the boat back, because I'm not going to pay for a boat. We already have a boat that he doesn't have to pay a payment on. It's already, but he wants his bass boat. He wants his high-end shit. Okay. But he can downgrade if he wants to just that catfishing boat. And it's a nice little boat. But again, that's how women have to learn how to play it. Don't be a slave to somebody else's needs and wants. Give yourself room to get your life back. Because I'll tell you, women will work themselves to death so they can look good for the world. And they will be the sacrificial lamb. They don't have to do that. Men will also work themselves to death too, to look like something. And so they end up destroying each other if they both are, not relating to each other in an authentic way. And that's called the funeral, or divorce, or separation. It's right in your face. And since people can't really hang out by themselves because they're too lonely without their crew, they end up declaring war on everybody, and they destroy, mutually assured destruction. What do you mean they declare war on everybody? Because they want to go and hang out all the time with people. That's declaring war. You say, oh yeah, let's do this, let's do that. And so then, the microbes get together, all the addictions come out, and then wow. And so when I add food to my husband's world, when I make him food, like making those cookies and making him the dinner, and make sure I don't spend too much money, and I let him know what I'm doing or whatever, or I keep tabs on him because I want to make sure I care where he is, where he's at. Not because I think he's cheating on me, because I want to know and want to be in that situation. I could be in there spiritually, with his job. He's going to be over here and over here. How is it? How are you doing? What can I offer you for his encouragement as a wife? Right? And so I talked to him a lot. But I'll call him later on today. I haven't called him yet. Because I didn't know. Oh, no, I did call him. That's right. I did call him. Fuck. I forgot that. Anyways, so when I add food to my husband's world, when I cook for him, when I make cookies for him to take on the truck, when I feed him, when I wash his clothes, when I make sure the bed's clean, when I make sure the house is relatively clean, I'm adding to his life. I'm not taking anything away. That's my goal as a wife. Someone who has every intention to keep him alive. So that's why I don't party. Because that would be taking something away. Okay, if he chooses to party and I'm there at the party and he needs me to drive, I'll drive. Okay? And so that's my goal. I'm not his party partner. No, I am his wife who has the goal to keep myself alive and him alive. And since he's a breadwinner, I'll let him figure out how he wants to balance all that together. Okay? And so that's how I stay alive. So that's my strategy of survival. And I'm an asset without having to work my ass off and kill myself to do that. It's strategy, women and men. It's strategy. And maybe it's better that some people be single and find some place to cheap and figure out how to keep themselves alive. Because I got the luxury, because I built this. I had to fight for this situation. I literally had to fight for this. But I will never take away the pain. That's for him to do. I will not be the one to destroy my husband. He has to be the one to make that call. But I will call 911 if there is an emergency at his request. But I will make sure he is fed, clean bed, relatively clean house, curb any addictions or crazy spending habits. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything. I just eat food. And even I don't have too much crazy. I don't have like bonbons. Okay? I have, like you saw my grocery list. When I figured out what I needed to survive, especially during these frequency changes, especially with the pain and oh my God, I figured out what I needed to survive. I don't need as much ice cream like I did last summer. Okay, you see, I haven't bought ice cream. There's still one packet of 12 little ice cream bars that are still there from last summer. So I didn't eat all of them. I ate most of them. Okay? But I find the way to see how useful I could be keeping the house going and not spending so much and so if I had to eat, like I did buy before, large amounts of cream, but I don't need that much anymore. So you saw that even how much I'm buying as food is now finally aligned with the biorhythms of my body and the environment. And so I'm not even spending a lot of money on food or going out to eat. Okay? And so that shows my respect to him. That's what I'm trying to say. So I'm not perfect. The house needs a lot of work as far as minor fixes and maintenance. And there's things that I would like to get rid of, like in the attic, all of his CB radio shit. Not like the good stuff, all the things that he took apart to take, like in a junkyard, like a salvage yard, where you're taking pieces of different things to go and put something else together. There's things that I don't know what to. I would throw it all away if I could, but maybe he wants. I don't know. So eventually, maybe this winter we'll go and throw away more shit so we don't become a hoarder. Okay? But I'll make sure he is fed, clean bed, relatively clean house, curb any addictions or crazy spending habits unless I'm working full time, and find the way to see how useful I could be keeping this house going. I'm not perfect. The house needs a lot of work as far as minor fixes and maintenance and a few upgrades. Nothing is horrific. I just have to figure out a strategy. And I'm glad that he won't be doing any fishing this season. He can still fish, but it's just not like he has been. There's lots to do next year because we also have another deck that we want to build. And then there's refinancing this property so we can bring in that other property that's next door because we're working out with the city of gaining more property. Okay. Because there's an empty property, an empty lot next door that we're in the process of getting out. So I also practice self-care and still expanding my intellectual capability because I deserve to be more knowledgeable. And that could also be an asset in a relationship. Okay? I study all the time. And I don't get lost in pleasure. And there's enough beauty in the world. And I've seen a lot of it. So I don't focus on beauty. Yeah, beauty is nice, but there's a lot more I need to focus on, which is making sure I survive these freaking changes. What I focus on, making sure I survive all these evolutionary changes in the world. Because right now it's about survival. Beauty will come later. You get the beauty when you have earned that, and that's from surviving every single frequency shift without compromising your body, mind, and spirit and somebody else. And so the article about sexual contingent self-worth, which I don't even know existed, but I Googled self-contingent or contingent sexual contingency or self or something, and that's what that article came up. And so it says sexual contingent self-worth refers to self-worth that is dependent on maintaining a sexual relationship. Okay, and it has not been studied previously. So we know the Kinsey Institute studied all the different sexualities of men and women and men and men and women and women, and now it's about the sexuality and self-worth, which is a lot of women and men are suffering under that construct and made it to be the main point of their relationship versus a very small piece of that relationship. And so when people have based not only their self-worth, but also the worth of themselves between that other person, if that person isn't getting me off, it means they don't love me. Oh, wow. That right there is set up to fail. That's why I feel sorry for these girls and these boys being forced into indentured servitude of marriage and relationship, because they are entering into a human trafficking situation of sexual slavery. And then you see it in the wedding pictures. You see it in the outfits these girls are being forced to wear through the pressure of their peers, their parents, and their society. And so then, yeah, girls and boys are trafficked by their parents and by their community. And so then sexuality becomes the main component in self-worth and also the main component in relationships. And that is a scary thing. And so I said, regardless of past sexual relationships, regardless if they were good or bad, to what degree does someone have to endure being cannibalized by the other person? A scale from 1 to 100, and this is just me just saying things offhand. If your need to have sex is over 50, you could be codependent and probably more focused on the body, working out, sports, drugs, alcohol, part of the health and wellness world. Okay. All into the beauty, having to look sexy all over Facebook. Of course, arts and entertainment. That's all based in the sexuality, of course. That's where arts and entertainment comes from, is that sexual energy. How do you pluck people's hormones in a specific way? Comes from trauma, sexuality, war. Because it's all about endorphins, hormones, and pleasure, and then annihilation. Complete, all-out annihilation. People fuck each other to death. If your need is under 50 and lower, and that's me, I used to feel like I had to just get off all the time. And then as the J world came through and I released a lot of those demons, it's not as much. And when the energy becomes that aggressive, where my hormones are trying to figure out how to make up or how to take from here to make sure I survive over here, then no, sexuality is off the table. It's not going to happen. And even physically, it's not going to happen, because there's that little cup of serotonin was really scant at that moment in time. Oh, I figured out everything around the J world and sexuality and the psychology around it, and then also even potentially the infertility, because you will be the best copy, which I already knew. But why is it that we have the reproductive system as an insurance policy? So if you get an accident or there's an aggressive change that causes a lot of damage, then the body has an insurance policy to carry on your genetic line. And so if your need of sexuality and gratification is under 50 and lower, you might be using your brain a whole lot more. You're not so focused on bodily images and bodily functions as far as pleasure or not purposely inducing pain from the pleasure, like the BDSM and all those sadomasochistic people. And you will probably live longer. I can imagine. Oh, yeah. Those in Hollywood that's been given everything, girls, sex, drugs, rock and roll. Yeah, 27 Club, a Matt Perry, JFK Jr., the little one, the one that died in the plane crash with his hot girlfriend who was a model. Yeah, he screwed everyone. He got screwed to death, literally. Made bad choices because of that. When you're given everything, like in that rat colony, you will screw yourself out of existence through drugs, alcohol, and sex. Even the men that don't have a girlfriend, but they have a slew of prostitutes, or they are trying to be respectable and have one wife, but that wife is hot. Like Leonardo DiCaprio has a girlfriend that he's basically using and banging. Yeah, he worked hard in Hollywood, so now he gets to screw himself out of existence in the ultimate amount of pleasure. That's the depopulation agenda. And so that's why I'm saying, women and men, if you want to live longer, it's time now to use it up here. Because this is only going to last so long. You will use up all this if you don't understand how to maintain a balance between life and death. And so if you're all about personal masturbation, that's the Ouroboros. That's the snake eating its tail. Self-explanatory, a person consuming themselves. So men jacking off all the time, women masturbating all the time, mutual masturbation, whatever. You're taught that in school. You're taught that. You're seeing that all over Facebook with all the people who are right-wing and are like all about the family. And like, oh my God, they're teaching sex in school. But yeah, you're teaching your daughters and sons to have a bunch of kids. Right-wing people, and they're all about, I don't like this whole masturbation shit and the trans thing, whatever. Okay, fine. But either side, they're both consuming themselves out of existence. You want to add more years to your life? Curb your sexual habit, meaning release the demons. And that doesn't mean through your penis or vagina or having a kid. It means you literally have to release those demons through your immune system, not your reproductive system. And that's the difference when I say release the demons. It's not through sexuality, because you will die. Literally, you will die from releasing the demons through your sexual reproductive organs. How do you release the demons? Through your immune system, your alimentary canal. But the Anunnaki or whatever, the bioengineers of humanity, developing these aggressive genders and gender roles, they controlled you through your sexual orientation, your sexuality, through the family. But there was a benefit, an upside to it. They can do human experimentation to figure out the best type of human. The downside is, all of these experiments, if you don't figure out what's going on, you won't survive the human experimentation. You won't, neither will your kids. So you better figure it out. Because what I felt last night, someone who hadn't done what I did, probably, who was weak, would probably not survive that situation. Because that was fucking aggressive. Holy shit. In my opinion, the lesser amount of time you have sex, the better the release for whatever interested party wants to get off. And you don't have to die in the process. You literally do not have to be a human sacrifice to the other person's sexual gratifications. If the other person is not on board, then negotiate what is comfortable and acceptable for everybody. So that way no one's cannibalizing the other person against their will. And they're not pressured into doing that. And there are ways to do that. And everybody's happy or happy enough. Women and men, you need to save yourself. Your friends and family ain't going to save you. They will keep pressuring you into destroying yourself. Literally through the traditions and habits and their belief systems. And so what I figured out is that the less the man jacks off, the better the release when he finally is able to hang out with his wife. The less the woman does, or the less masturbation the woman does, the better the release she has with her significant other. So as long as the environment isn't taking some of those resources for other things because of frequency changes. And you have to be really sympathetic to both men and women. Not everybody can just go at a drop of a dime. And some women feel very entitled that their men perform at the drop of a dime. And so then he takes drugs and harms himself that way. And some men feel very entitled for their wife to perform at the drop of a dime. And then she has to take drugs or do things to deal with the pain of whatever. I mean, I'm so glad that my husband's regular size. He's not like these giant dudes with big, large, oh my God. I feel sorry for any girl that has a man that has a huge, huge member, because she's getting destroyed. She's getting literally destroyed by that huge member. And then people are using all these different machines or big things. Yeah, the porn industry fucked up humanity in so many ways. And so, yeah, girls and boys, even the gay boys, are getting their ass demolished by somebody with a big, huge member. You can only imagine being a taker of some of these members out there that are so huge. That ain't gonna happen. I'm so glad my husband is not like that. But there have been men out there in the world that are so huge that they destroy and demolish anyone they get with. And they consume them. They consume them. And so no, it's not a good thing to be big. That means you are now a battering ram to whoever is exposed to that situation. You are a battering ram. And you are a destroyer. So I'm going to redefine that myth that bigger is better. No, not bigger is more destructive, more predatory. And that poor girl or guy taking it, fuck, I feel bad for that taker and the giver, because then he's just going to consume and then throw away when that thing isn't useful anymore to him or her. So. Oh gosh. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go through a lot of different emotions because I'm going through so many different things, and then I'll bring other posts back that may have to do with that post, but I'm going to now switch some gears, and I'll go back to that gear in a minute, I'm sure, because there's other posts that. But I've read these, what's going on in the Middle East and stuff like that, you know. I'm here in America. No one's coming into my house. There's no bombs being dropped in my neighborhood. I'm taking care of me. I'm doing the best I can to contribute to humanity. And I'm not, violating any laws or anything like that. I'm just going to be a good human and take care of myself and clean up my own backyard. Because that's exactly what's going on. The government is cleaning up their backyard. Humans have to clean up their own backyard. And so when I see somebody post this, and I see it all over, of course, in the activist world, especially against the war that's going on. If they say, they wrote this, if you have the ability to totally shut off your enemy's food, water, supplies, and electricity, and attack them at your leisure, you're probably not the good guy. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Then I'll look at all these activists all over Facebook. They're turning off their Wi-Fi and their electricity and saying that water is poison, and food is poison, and don't, use the microwaves or the Teflon or aluminum, and, only use this and cast iron. Or I say, holistic allopathic activists shutting off their own Wi-Fi electricity, demonizing tap water, say food is poison, demonize their microwaves, Teflon, aluminum, and periodically or daily use anti-life protocols, attacking their body, and they also use surgery, right? And they're voluntarily doing damage to their body, voluntarily going under the knife, voluntarily using radiation and oncology and herbal remedies and detoxes and, turmeric and honey and apple cider vinegar and elderberry syrup and giving it to their children voluntarily, getting transplants, implants. If you have a problem with what's going on in Gaza, because Israel is defending itself, because somebody is defending themselves, why don't you ask your body what kind of harm you're doing to it on a daily basis? But then if you say you're defending yourself from cancer, disease, and chronic illness, then I don't see the problem. right? If Israel's defending himself because somebody was an aggressor and not only bombed them, but also took hostages, regardless if you think it's contrived or organic, well, right now, Israel is defending themselves. Just like you say you are by staying away from everything in the world and starving yourself. What's the fucking difference? So I said, I'll read this. Western privilege. People have something to say overseas, but they don't look at the war they waged on themselves and in their own body and at home. People thought I was a demon when I was defending myself. Because I was in my little group. I might say things, but I wasn't going after anyone in particular. I was just having my opinion about mainstream, medical shit. I wasn't attacking anybody. And here comes not only my moderators attacking me because I wanted to allow everyone to come in the group and they don't want me to do that. But I was also defending myself against the trolls that were coming in and trolling me. Okay? So people thought I was a demon when I was defending myself. They called me Satan, a killer, whatever. Oh gosh, wow, what's going on in Israel right now is the same thing that happened to me way back in 2017, 2018. I see no fucking difference between those two scenarios. Israel is defending themselves. People forgot how the war started recently. And they forgot what happened in 6,000 years ago because, yes, we defeated the giants that were enslaving humans. Who's we? Well, the Israelites. Why do I say we? Because I was converted Jewish, yes. Way back when I was a kid. Okay, so they were wandering the desert for 40 years, and then finally Caleb and Josh and David figured out how to go and beat Goliath, how to go and beat all the giants, and eradicate the Canaanites that were enslaving humans and, torturing them. Where do you think mankind learned how to torture things? From their parents. 6,000 years ago, the barbarians, the giants. That's why the giants don't exist. That's why the whole world was eradicated. And so people forgot how the war started recently, and then they forgot what happened 6,000 years ago. But wasn't it recently somebody attacked them with the hostages? And if you're okay with that, then you really need to be quiet. Okay? It's ironic. It's all the holistic activists who say they're all about peace and Nibiru are waging war on their bodies with holistic remedies. Genociding their own selves. Ironic, isn't it? I can't make this up. I have a bird's eye view on everybody. I've met most people out there who have waged war on themselves, or I met people like them who have everything to say about what goes on overseas and are actively destroying their own body, but they call it defending. Surprise, surprise, your defense is just as good as theirs, right? Oh, but you don't like their defense. You only like yours. But I digress. Those who promote voluntary surgeries doing damage to their own body and family's bodies have an issue with somebody else defending themselves. Your voluntary destruction is just as relevant as somebody else's defending themselves. I'm sorry, but your politics does not jive in this case. People who defend themselves often get mistaken as the aggressor. People forget who the aggressors are. They get lost in translation. No matter what, save yourself. Because you'll never understand the hard choices people have to make to balance humanity out. I made hard choices even back then when I was getting rid of moderators. They're like, why would you get rid of her, him? Because there wasn't any future. They want me to collaborate with the holistic people. It ain't gonna fucking happen. I'm not collaborating with holistic people. I'm not gonna go back to the pink salt. It's the white fucking salt. But even then, that didn't even matter. But they couldn't stay on board with what I was doing. They wanted to have an easy sell. Oh, if you demonize the white salt, then it'll be easy sell with the pink salt and then all the organic shit. And they were still in the holistic world. As they were enslaving animals, selling them, breeding them, and selling them on the market. Even playing the psychology game of torturing them outside, because if they're having babies outside and it's so hot, well, if they have a baby, then they can go inside and be in the air conditioning. And so the person figured out how to even control the animal breeding and make breeding be desirable when you're in air conditioning versus being left outside to suffer. That wasn't going to fly. No. So I'm saying I've met so many different people. And I know that in their stories, they think it's okay at the time. And then you look back on it after you realize all this stuff. They don't see anything wrong with that, with animal slavery. See, that's what I'm saying. Humans have been bred to be so brutal to not only animals, but to also themselves. And they're proud of it. People could say, well, Jillian, you let sugar suffer and all this other shit. Well, you know how I feel about that. Trying to save her ass. But when you're breeding animals purposely, you're not trying to save that animal. You're fucking trying to capitalize on them. There's a fucking difference with the intention. That's what I'm saying. That's why I had to make the hard choices. And you don't always know the stories behind these hard choices, but there's stories behind them. There's reasons why I had to make the choice that I made. I don't always disclose everything, but I had to make hard choices. I used to be an idealist as well. Then I grew up. I survived maturity. Idealism is for the children. Reality is for the actual adults. Adults have to face the demons. Children bitch about them. I live in America. I have wonderful opportunities. Been given so much access to resources, knowledge, everything a person could possibly want. And I'm a product of the Vietnam War. So I see someone say, oh, I'm from Palestine, and I see my homeland being destroyed, and they're in America, given all this opportunity, given a place to live, a job to have, a husband or a wife, a bunch of children, access to food, and they're all against America, they're against Israel, and they're in a fucking America. They're in America, capitalizing on everything America has to offer, and they're like, oh God, my homeland is being destroyed. I live in America. I have wonderful opportunities here. I've been given so much access to resources, knowledge, everything a person could possibly want. And I'm a product of the Vietnam War. What a conundrum. What a paradox. I could be mad at America. Maybe I was. Maybe my last book kind of had a little bit of a tone of being kind of pissed off at the Vietnam War and my parents at the time. So yes, this book was what I felt like about a year ago. And I've evolved from this book, but I'm not going to write another book yet and try to cover it for this one. No, this one is what I felt like. I felt pissed off at the Vietnam War. I was pissed off at my parents. I understood Charles Manson and Ted Kaczynski. Okay. I mean, I really, there was a tone in here. I wasn't completely inflammatory, but there's a tone in here that, yeah, there's some part of the segment of the Rosicrucian is about balancing out humans, and some humans are going to have to die who are going to take humanity down and destroy it. And other humans who have the capacity to evolve will then carry on humanity. And you have a choice. But right here, this book was showing you that I was pissed off at America, my parents, and a lot of things. Okay? And so that's fine. Be pissed off and then realize the gifts that were given to you. Your opportunities. And so I could be mad at America. But you can only imagine how I would have ended up, a prostitute, sold into slavery by my parents in Vietnam because of poverty, and that happens. Destroyed by the North Vietnamese, right? Or living a short life in the rice paddies. So you can only imagine what your life would have been if you stayed in Palestine. You can only imagine what your life would have been if you stayed in Vietnam. The fact you're here in America says that you were lucky enough to be given all this opportunity to make your life great or destroy your life. But to bite the hand that feeds you, if you're a Palestinian living in America and you're biting the hand that feeds you, are you fucking kidding me? Check your privilege. If you are here and your homeland is going through another growing pain, be thankful you're still alive. Be thankful you have access to opportunity. Be thankful. There are some people in America who have been given a college education, great jobs. They were in the biosciences. They lived out there in Silicon Valley. I knew them. And guess what they did? They renounced, I don't know if they renounced or should have, but they moved to Mexico. They moved to Mexico. Why did they move to Mexico? Because they didn't like America. They thought America was going to go down, and so they didn't want to be here when it's going down. So what did they do? They moved to Mexico because they were part of the conspiracy world. They got caught up in the conspiracy world. Anarchapulco. Remember that world? Anarchapulco? Anarchy? And look at Acapulco is demolished. Are they going to have an Anarchapulco this February? I kind of doubt it. And so this person is stuck in Mexico now. Will she come back to America? Who the fuck knows? She's suffering. Will it take another hurricane to take out her town? Who knows? She's in a third world country. She in a lot of ways, she may not have technically renounced her citizenship in America, but she was basically given the bird to everything she ever was given to her. She basically flipped off America. Check your fucking privilege, people. Anarchapulco. I don't see that guy around too much anymore. With the crypto markets, probably, just now like, yeah, there's nothing there. I mean, people try to sell it. Yeah, whatever. Crypto. So anyways, I'm a mongoloid. All right. But it's not just mongoloids who can eat this type of way, which is the Temujin, and I don't even know how to say it, Temujin diet. And basically that's meat, milk, cheese, eggs, gruel, or porridge. Dairy, a lot of dairy. And Genghis Khan, who was part of the whole Tartarian stuff. And he actually was against torture, which I didn't even know that. But I knew he raped, I heard he raped, maybe he didn't, I don't know. Pillaged, whatever. Maybe he killed versus tortured. But that was how he was able to cover so much ground in such a short amount of time. And he united tribes, and he conquered a lot of different lands. And he also united a lot of different lands. So the Mongoloid diet is also even type O, blood type O food that's recommended. But again, could a person change blood types? I don't know. That has yet to be determined. But I'll tell you, the type A's and B's that are out there, they're skinny. A lot of knowledge up here, but their body has to now figure out how to keep up with the energy of the knowledge up here, but they're going to have to release some of the demons. They'll still keep the knowledge, but they have to release the demons and reprogram. And they're going to they're going to have to feel the heat of growth and release, and also replace the release with the food, all food, not just like, specific foods that people have said that, oh, this is a better food than this. Now, all food is needed: meat, milk, cheese, eggs, whatever. And so, the meat, that's not just plant-based protein, so I won't eat just plant-based protein substitute meat. And so I'm going to read this because it's interesting. And so this was written in December 16, 2015. It's actually a WordPress. The Mongol Diet. Okay, think about the theme of this year, MAD. That was 2015. MAD, M-A-D. Guts. My mind turned, as it often does, to a book called The Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World. In roughly 300 breezy reading pages, Jack Weatherford tells the story of how the Temujin, a small child whose mother was kidnapped into marriage and whose father was poisoned, rose to become Genghis Khan, the greatest conqueror of the world in the history of history, and a progressive leader at that, one who banished torture, permitted religious freedom, and cross-pollinated the ideas and technology of every culture that came under his rule. If you didn't know that and think of Khan as some Conan the Barbarian, please consider GKATMOTMW as a required reading. And I have no idea what that is. Oh yeah, Genghis Khan, the Making of the Modern World. Okay, as a required reading. But it wasn't so much that conquering that made me think about guts, but the diets that the Mongols lived on as they conquered, steamrolling the East. Impressive. Doing it while eating what they did. That was gutsy. I corresponded with Mr. Weatherford to learn about what the Mongols' diet was like, and now present you with my findings largely in his words. Okay? And so the Mongolians had no cuisine as we might think of it. They had a simple cooking that was the same for everyone. Mostly boiled, unseasoned meat, but I, fry my meat and stuff. Yet the cook was one of the highest ranking officials of the empire and in charge of running the court. You see how important food is and how important being a cook is in your household? The cook was also important in keeping the peace, since the order in which people were served food could lead to great fights and food riots. For this reason, no one could come to a meal with a weapon, but they still threw dishes and anything else at hand. So I serve my husband first, and then I also serve myself. Sometimes I'll serve myself first, and then he can come into whatever. But it's like, it's my respect to him. I'll serve him first, or I'll serve myself first. If I'm by myself, I'll eat first, obviously. Okay? But that shows my respect to my husband because he made the bread. And so I will give him the bread first. Mongols categorize food into two groups. Ulan ID, a red food like meat, mainly eaten in the winter and spring, and Tsagan ID, which is white foods like dairy products, mostly eaten in the summer and fall. Vegetables were considered as a form. Interesting. You know what? I was eating cream this last summer. Okay? And so yes, during the winter, you need red meat, like meat. But some of you are going to need to have meat or milk right now because you're in such deficit. But Mongols categorize food into two groups. Ulan ID, red foods like meat, mainly meat eaten in the winter and spring, and then Sagan ID, white foods like dairy products, mostly eaten in the summer and fall. Vegetables were considered as a form of grass called goat food. The Mongols were thoroughly disgusted that farmers ate plants that grew in the dirt and had often been fertilized with excrement. I can imagine. Yeah, like goat food? Why would you only eat vegetables? I mean, people who are vegetarians eat, yeah. That's why you're a vegetable. That's why you're not going to fucking survive. The Mongols were very particular about butchery. The butcher, usually a young boy, made a small incision in the chest of the goat or sheep, reached inside and pinched off the aorta, which immediately killed the animal. It had to be done outdoors, but in the shadows so that the sun would not see it without spilling the blood so that the earth would not feel it. Okay, yeah. Large animals like an oxen would be killed by hitting them between the horns with sledgehammers so not to spill any blood. Normally, any animal would be consumed within 3 hours. Well, now we're turning to lab-created meat. Because I got into an argument with somebody on Facebook, not really argument, but like a discussion with some troll that came through, well, not on my Facebook, but when I was, I don't know, about lab meat and whatever, and or about thank God for the lab, and that, I think the question was, do humans need to eat meat? And I'm like, yeah, it's just how they acquired it was what the issue is. It made them very barbarous. And the guy was like, well, you need meat. And I'm like, I'm not saying you don't need meat. I'm saying that maybe if you make it in a lab, you won't turn into a barbarian, right? A predator. Anyways, because the Mongols, hold on. Because the Mongols cooked over dung fires, they usually boiled meat after rather than roasting or frying it. When on the move, the Mongols often cooked an animal in its own skin by stuffing it with heated rocks. All right? Okay. All right, so Genghis Khan and his men once avoided starvation by killing a wild horse and cooking it in its hide. Genghis Khan's first killing was over food. He killed his half-brother for taking a bird and fish he'd caught. Oh, it makes sense. Dogs get really aggressive around their food. Sometimes. Not my dog, because she was trained not to at the shelter. In the fall, when the men took the animals to graze far from home and fattened them for winter, they lived mostly on fermented horse or camel milk, supplemented by wild marmots, which means I have no issues with eating insects if they're in my food. Well, which they, as a marmot, may not be an insect. I'm thinking of it, but that probably is an actual mammal of sorts. Best I'll eat insects too if they're mixed in with the food. Which they cooked in their skin. Okay, wild marmots, okay. Fermented camel and horse milk produced nearly constant diarrhea, but since the men lived outside, it was not considered to be a big problem. Okay, so yeah, they released the demons. Constant diarrhea, they released the demons. So the next time you feel overwhelmed by a challenge, like they say, taking over the world, imagine doing so while subsisting on boiled marmot as fermented horse milk is blasting a hot course through your insides. I find it makes things look sunnier and puts my own challenge in perspective. This is cool. I think I put the website It's called Mad Feed, the Mongol diet. It's pretty cleverly written, so thank you. Good job. That was cool. Yeah. Yeah, I did put that website there. Because that's worth a good read. Oh, here we go. Oh my god. It's about people's children. See, when I was raised as a kid, my sister and I, we were the best behaved children in that restaurant. If we ever went in a line, banged our silverware, or becoming, distracted, the look from my mother and father was enough to put any fear in any heart of man out there. Yeah. We were the best behaved kids when we were at restaurants. Because it was an adult-centered household, and it was an adult-centered world. Right now we see child-centered households, so kids run everything. That's why these kids are weak, because they run the fucking world and they have no idea what the fuck they're doing. Because their mom and dad don't. So there's this lady that is pissed off that the restaurant charged her a surcharge called bad parenting, because her kids probably tortured the staff, probably made a mess underneath the table, and probably tortured the patrons that were right next to them. And I've been around kids that were just like always running around, running here and getting out of their seat and going near everybody and, complaining or crying or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God. So if the staff member must babysit your kid or your child is torturing other customers, making their experience unpleasant, why not do good by society and pay the establishment for their pain and suffering? It's a win-win. I had 9 or 10 likes on that on the actual page that posted that. I think it was like Daily Mail or something. And so then it reminded me of dining with people in the past, where the mother, just felt so entitled to treat the wait staff like shit, to send her food back all the time. And it wasn't because of allergens or obvious things like something cooked too long or too short. It was just like, these wings didn't look the way she thought they would look. And she was just like, I can't believe they gave me like this. Oh my God, it's not supposed to be like this. I mean, it was like, she made a big deal out of what the wings look like. And that was how the wings were served. That was the wings. That was how they were served in that restaurant. And she made a big fucking deal over that. And I'm like, what the hell? So I had a sneaking suspicion that the mother also sends her food back when it's not done to her liking. And it isn't the obvious situation like a chard or allergens. I bet she's also a difficult customer as well. She tortures the staff. I knew many women like that. That was just one example. There's other examples where I see women just like, just not giving eye contact when they're ordering food and want it's just, oh God. I knew many women like that last 20 years who think they are above waiters and waitresses, and then everyone must be tortured by their children, especially at a restaurant. Of course, I'm not friends with them anymore because it's fucking embarrassing going out to eat with people who don't control their kids, who treat the waitstaff like shit. And it's just like, oh God. I can only imagine what it's like to be a waiter and waitress. And I tip waiters and waitresses pretty heavily. Unless it's so bad, but even then, very rarely do I not tip below 20%. Sometimes even extra. My husband likes to give a little bit extra. But I cannot imagine anyone treating waitstaff like that and then letting their kids torture everyone around them. Nope. Just then, here we go. Oh God. I'm still, I didn't sleep very well last night. I was in fucking pain last night. Literally, I was in pain last night. So I'm not working off of fumes right now. But I can do it. My arms don't hurt as much, but they were so sore at 12 midnight. It was when the demons woke up. And I woke up just so fucking sore. So I didn't sleep very well at all. So then Matthew Perry. All right. So I was thinking about, I was looking at, there's so many articles. I mean, he's all over fucking Facebook with all the articles saying that he died this, and all the conspiracy around that and everything. Of course, the Illuminati stuff. But this one from Daily Mail says, Matthew Perry's body is taken out of his LA home after drowned in a hot tub. And I'm like, he had a nice home, but what is the point? I mean, a nice home is a nice home. It's a big home. What is the point in having nice things if you do not stay alive long enough to appreciate the nice things? Moral to the story. Do not take your life for granted. Downsides if you are a slave to wealth and excess. The addiction to wealth, baubles, and social capital and influences lasts for only so long until it literally consumes you. The Ouroboros. Now, the thing is that I heard that when he was on Friends, he was dealing with addiction. So the addiction was even rampant during when he was in Friends. And so even though he's making all that money, right, he's making $1 million an episode, he was also heavily addicted, fighting the demons of alcoholism. Of which then, when he was done with Friends, then it was going to the movies and all that. And it was and the alcoholism just took him over. Like literally took him over. And so the addiction and to the wealth and the baubles and social capital influence, and of course, I mean, could you have done something differently? What else could you have done? I mean, if you have an open door to make money as being an actor, and maybe you have addictions to things and people give you everything, you're not going to be like, well, I'm going to walk away from all of that and go live like a pauper and bag groceries or type for somebody else. No, he's going to. And so they're trapped. Britney Spears was trapped. Taylor Swift's trapped. I mean, it's a nice jail. People want to be in her kind of jail. Not really if you figure out what it really takes to do it. But you don't hear the stories until later on. But everything looks good now, right? Britney couldn't say anything when she was going through the Justin Timberlake stuff. Okay, so these people, when you think about who's actually in a jail, it's those who are highly influential, who are making a lot of money. See, here's the thing. I'm married to my husband, and he makes the money, and he works very hard, and so do I, in making sure that we do okay. And I don't have a lot of money. I don't have baubles. I don't have a lot of money. I'm not trying to be famous. I mean, yeah, I'm infamous if you think about it, if you look at the Wikipedia about me. But I don't want to be rich, and I don't want to be famous. I want to be able to make my way in this world without having somebody give me something. I don't want to take advantage of my position and turn this into some circus. Though people have tried to turn this in, and when they've tried to turn this into a circus, guess what? It bit back at me. Because when you think about the J world, it's not selling you a pain-free life. It's not selling you a remedy. It's telling you that life is painful. I mean, you could survive, potentially. I can't even guarantee that you'll survive your transition. So there is no money in this. There's no fame out of this. And maybe 20 years later, when I'm like, what am I, 50? In February, when I'm 70 and I still look like this today, oh, okay, that's pretty phenomenal. And people think, oh, did she get plastic surgery? Is she drinking adrenochrome? Right? They're like, oh, Jillian's an Illuminati. She's drinking adrenochrome. That's how she's staying so young. No, I'm pulling out the shit out of my ass that could cause the aging process. I'm feeling the fucking pain. No, I'm not drinking blood. No, I'm not a fucking Illuminati. No, I'm not any of these things that people could think I am maybe even 20 years later. Oh, no, I'm not a fucking vampire. I'm actually going through the process of releasing demons, and I'm eating food. I'm getting away from the activist world, from the holistic world, from the allopathic world, from the surgical world. I'm saying all those stories are fed to you. What is the depopulation agenda? You're destroying yourself. So no, I don't want to be famous. I don't want to end up like Matthew Perry. I don't want to end up like any of these people out there. They are a lesson to you. I don't want to end up like Britney Spears or Taylor Swift. That little tiny amount of fame that I got during the Dr. Phil, I paid dearly for that. I got all the stalking, the stalk by trolls and horrible emails and horrible trolls and horrible groups against me. Oh, I paid for all of that fame. But I also shared the wealth. Lillian has a nice large computer touch screen. So does Stephanie or Steph. So does, who else did I give the computer to? Oh, the other chick, I forget her name. I don't even remember half the people that I gave fucking computers to. I bought computers for people. I shared the wealth. Okay? This is not about capitalizing people and taking advantage of people. You think about it now, you're like, well, I gave you money for this. Well, I gave my time to you. You have access to this information. You thought that this was going to be a big money-making venture, and it wasn't. It never was. Some people invest and they don't get a great return on their investment. Other people, they break even. Other people make a great return on their investment. It just depends on, was that investment a sound investment? But I also said, hey, I even signed a paper saying, if you're going to give me $1,500 for whatever, you could use the Jilly Juice name, sell whatever the fuck you want, I don't care. You do whatever you want with the Jilly Juice, I don't care. I own the name, but if you want to make money off it, fuck it. What am I gonna do? Chase after everyone that makes money off of my name? No, I really don't care. I'm not about being greedy and trying to be like, okay, you just do whatever you want. Do whatever the hell you want, because in the long run, at the end of the day, it's about fucking life. Do you have access to live? Or do you want to die? I'm not trying to be cured. I'm not trying to, to torture anyone. And I just want to give you information. If people want to turn this into a circus, yeah, you get the fame out of it, but you pay dearly for it. People may love you and they may hate you, but in the end, then people get so used to people loving them and they get whatever they want and they destroy themselves through all the pleasures. And Matt Perry destroyed himself through the pleasure. Taylor Swift eventually will too, because she's being matched with someone from Cincinnati. He actually went, what do you guys, was it Ohio State or Cincinnati University? I forget. University of Cincinnati? Or Cincinnati State? I don't know. But Kelsey, that guy, yeah, he's from Ohio. Oh yeah, Ohio, land of the Giants, land of the hot men out here. Fuck yeah. Football, Hall of Fame over here in Canton, Ohio. But I don't want to destroy myself through pleasure, so I'm not ever going to be like, well, aren't all Illuminati about, the human sacrifice and the rich and they're doing stupid shit? Yeah, I was raised in a different way. I won't say I was Illuminati, but I was raised by people who knew what the future was going to be. And it was a crapshoot if I was going to survive the training and survive the world that I was thrust out into. It was going to be a crapshoot. But I had very specific programming. Yes, yellow programming. My sister had pink programming. And now you see us, if you were to see us together in our lifestyle, you now understand where that programming, exactly how that programming is manifesting. Not everybody is going to be like a Matt Perry that's being programmed by the society that people are so afraid of. I suffered through so much of not being like everybody else. But that suffering is what's going to help all of you figure out if you can handle the suffering to live, not suffering too much later on down the road. But even then, last night, you could say, well, fuck. Was it worth suffering last night? Yeah, because I survived it and I lived to tell about it. I didn't die from it. And there's no more pain today, but I was painful last night. Waking up at midnight. It was so fuck. That's why I wrote that. Oh my God. I watched the growth go through that process so quickly. And it was so quick. Because you saw the growth on here. The growth moved over here. And then it was the pain. But before that growth was then me activating my immune system. I released that fucking poop demon. Because I was so bloated this weekend. And that's why I didn't feel too much pain, but I felt bloated. But once I released that poop demon, that's the evolution. Then my immune system got activated. It pushed everything through. The prostaglandins were activated to push out the demon. And so I felt pain, yes, but it was short-lived. And today, I'm tired because that's a lot of work, but I survived it. I lived another day. Somebody else probably would have died if they were in that position. Okay? That's the difference. And so I was looking for a picture of a girl being chased by snakes. Okay? Because what is that? That's a girl today in our society who will turn into a woman one day, who will be faced with having to kowtow to her in-laws, her family, society, to be a wife, mother, girlfriend, and an employee. And she'll be used and abused. Literally, she'll be used up. And then what's chasing her is the traditions and family. And so, like domestic violence, the most dangerous time for a woman is when she leaves the slavery of tradition. Not only did she set her body free, but she sets her mind free. And so I thanks Alex Ansary, this guy that runs a channel called Outside the Box. And he definitely has a similar thought process. He has his own, he's posted some of my videos in his chat groups and all that stuff. I'm not trying to collaborate with him, but I also acknowledge, like with John and with Audrey and Pip and Tanya and other people and Grace and all that, when you guys say some things or do things, and I'll say things, maybe I won't say your name, but I might acknowledge your situation. It's like I don't say collaboration, but it's an acknowledgement that your influenced my new thought, not say new thought process, but reinforced. Even Eris chaos. Okay. Some of my interactions with you have influenced some of my thought processes. And so I want to give credit where credit is due. Okay. So I said, thanks, Alex. Your very well thought out comment, which was in a prior post, spurred this post. I want to give credit where credit is due. I appreciate your articulate thought process. It's nice to know there are others that think like I do. Okay. And so he's kind of relatively new on the scene because he introduced himself when I posted another video that he finally was like, oh, well, okay, I've been following you and now I get you. Or he's been getting me, but he wanted to let me know he really got me. And so that's when I posted this, where I screenshotted what he responded in that one post. Families traffic their own children and wives in all cultures because they are setting their girls up to get married to an older husband or a younger one, to go date, to go be an influencer, to go date OnlyFans. Okay. And so what did I say that he responded to? Eureka moment. I figured out that women get screwed twice by society. She gets screwed once by her father, by the father, not her father, but by the father, and twice by her children. And then the third time is the medical system, holistic system. Third time's a charm, right? They get all the therapies, the surgeries, the taking of the antibiotics, all the people who are playing with her hormones, massage therapists. So set the woman free. Don't force her into marriage, and don't force her to have a baby. Everything is hidden in plain sight, right? I also weep for the mothers out there, and I weep for her children. The mother gets screwed out of existence by the father and by her children. The children are the ones who enslave their parents. The children are the ones who destroy their parents, because look who dies. For the most part, it's the parents that die first and the kids, right? That's why mothers are basically slaves to the family. That's why she is destroyed. That's why they have Mother's Day, to make up for what society has done to the mothers out there and the women. It pains me to watch mothers enslave their own children and force them into servitude. And so when the system gets away from the family, then they turn the girls into a sex demon. OnlyFans. She's on OnlyFans, wanting no family, selling her body for money. And there are so many predators out there, or she's on Instagram, or she's an influencer on Facebook. The mother is only repeating the trauma in her children as she sells her daughters and sons on the internet, making her child a target. That's what it all comes down to. And the parents allow it because they both destroy each other eventually until somebody walks away. I finally figured it out. Phew, right? So then natural and synthetic antibiotics enslave the life in your body. So where did I get this thing that the kids enslave the parents? This is when the offspring in your body, from all the remedies, all the surgeries, all the prescription drugs and the over-the-counter drugs, develop offspring in the body. So they might be programmed to do a specific thing, give you more energy or produce a hormone that you couldn't produce, like insulin. But those offspring also get out of control and they destroy a person over time. That's why then more drugs and surgeries and protocols are deployed, because those remedies don't work anymore and they become out of control. And so natural synthetic antibiotics enslave the life in your body. Herbal drugs, detoxes, and painkillers enslave the parents or anybody under the influence of the drug herbal detox. I just got a freaking pain on my shoulder blade. The offspring are enslaving the parent cells until the parent tries to break free, and maybe the parent survives the energy conversion. All right, and that's what disease is. That's when you feel pain, is you're trying to break free from the children in your body who are trying to enslave you. And then what people do, they disable their immune system. They're taking a remedy, they're taking a surgery, they're doing other things to try to quell the body from trying to purge out the demon. And they develop new demons on top of that. When they're taking their iodine, taking all their supplements, detoxes, food mitigation, weakening the parent. And so, yeah, the parents actually enslave themselves by having so many children, as well as in their body and in their mind and spirit, and also in their household. And so, slavery is in the medical holistic energy healing world. Once you are set free, will you survive your own freedom? Your children are your overseers. Ironic, isn't it? Your microbial offspring programmed by that particular drug were developed to do a job, to disable your immune system or force your body's hormones to produce what it was not allowed to produce via malnutrition. Your children aim to destroy you in the macrobial human world until the parent is strong enough to stay alive despite their child's intention to destroy. So chew on that. That is why Chucky, Children of the Corn, and all these movies based on child killers exists. That's why they're not allowed to have children vampires, because children vampires, you know, in the allegory of vampires, are chaotic and they destroy everything, and then they expose the vampire race versus having the vampire race be under the shadows. So they're not allowed to have child vampires because they will cause extinction. Okay? So will the parents survive their own offspring? That is what it all comes down to. I figured it out. The children of the Nephilim are destroying society, and so society is now trying to regulate itself. Your own starvation game is leverage for the microbial children eating you alive in both the males and the females. So you have males who have, yes, they're strong, but unless they release those demons, because they have to be strong because they're doing a job, right? They're throwing steel, driving a truck, hauling wood, you know, pouring concrete. They're built like brick fucking shithouses. Okay, that will only last so long, and I hope it lasts as long as you can make it last. But those little children inside your body that's giving you that strength of 1,000 men will eventually eat the parent, and then that's when what happens is that's when the breakdown, that's when the cancer happens, disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders, a lot of growth that you're going to have to manage. Will a man who is not doing what I'm doing, literally, will he be able to prolong his life? Well, my husband is that man who shits when he needs to. He'll shit in the middle of the fucking night. He'll shit whenever he shits. I even had to do a little bit of diarrhea actually this weekend after an energy conversion. All of a sudden I had to go to the restroom, and I think it was like on the Saturday. Yeah, I think Saturday. After that, I did that transmission. I had to use the restroom, and it was like, oh my God. Okay, and so my husband, you know, I mean, he'll still be strong. I'll still keep feeding him, you know, meat, milk, cheese, and egg, and everything. I tell him, don't treat your disease. Don't treat your disease. Just let it go through it. If you have a fever blister, let it just do what it's doing, and he does, and it's there, and then it's gone. And so he's good. I don't know how long he'll last. We'll see. Okay. But your own starvation game is leverage for the microbial children eating you alive in both the males and the females. And so even men have to make sure they release the demons without compromising themselves. And it doesn't mean sexual demons. It means that you're trying to release the demons through your immune system, not through your sexual system. All right? And so, let's see. Did I say anything about that? Oh, yeah. And so Alex said, this is what he responded. Outside the Box TV with Alex Ansary. You are an amazing writer. What you speak of, I call the mind slave. That makes that, yeah, absolutely. I have been warning of human trafficking of women for ages, but few women support me. But they will support right-wing movies like Sound of Freedom, in which there is a white savior. The anti-porn group, Exodus Cry, exposing trafficking from white savior. Anti-brown person worldview, putting the blame on foreign men, not their own men. Not just blame foreign men. They will continue to have issues. I'm also getting more vocal about the need to protect Asian Americans in the day age of potential conflict with China. I wrote a lot for Japanese American men in Portland who was more my dad than my own dad. He was a gangster back in the day, built like a bolo young, but really worry about him in light of the stories of hate crimes happening there and elsewhere. Okay. And so you have people that are like all about Sound of Freedom and human trafficking, and then these right-wing women dressing their girls up to be basically prostitutes for the men that look good on paper. That's no different than even the left-wing women. The left-wing women, they're all about their education, and their girls look like prostitutes. They're going to be prostitutes for a man that looks good on paper. And then the right-wing men, the boys, are allowed to just do whatever the hell they want. The women just titter behind, are like, oh yeah, my son can do whatever he wants. I don't care if he's a predator. And then they're like, if he's not a predator, then he's a sissy boy, right? And so, yeah, these boys and girls don't stand a chance. Not in this society, not with the way these parents are raising their kids. And not with all the peer pressure around them. In the right wing, the left wing, and even in the independents. And so I kind of gave a cryptic remark back, but it's pretty cool. And I posted that so you can see it. There's a lot to respond to. But I said, yeah, that was my issue with the Sound of Freedom. So quick to blame, and they don't even look in their own backyard. And so those are like, oh, I love the Sound of Freedom. Yeah, I'll go look at what you've done to yourself, prostituting yourself for a man or whoever. And look what you're doing to your trafficking, to your sons and daughters, trafficking them to women and men. Oh, you got to get married someday, Johnny, Billy, Susie. And here, this is how you do it. And here, sex stuff. And here, porn. And here, you know. But that's how it's done, Jillian. Well, you're human trafficking your own sons and daughters. It's not about their brains anymore. Now you're trafficking for their body. I said such a quality comment. Okay. Okay, so now you see, so my sister had a pink room. Okay, so it's color programming. So if you're going to raise a kid and you want to play your own experiments without doing damage to your children, like physically, because you're not supposed to do that. But you can color program your kids. You're like, oh, no, don't give your boy a pink anything because he'll turn girly, and that's, okay. So now you see why Barbie is pink. So my sister had her pink room with a poster that says, "No, you're no bunny until some bunny loves you." So there's the female subservient programming to be a wife and a mother and potentially, sexual demon on some level. And then there's me on the yellow. But I also had sexual demon shit also infused into what I was doing. But I had the yellow program. But let's go look at the pink program. Now you see why Barbie is pink. Somebody else I know had the color programming pink. Even Paris Hilton. Color psychology suggests that different colors can have an impact on our moods, feelings, and even behaviors. The color pink, for example, is thought to be calming color associated with love, kindness, and femininity. Many people immediately associate the color pink with all things feminine and girly. Okay? And that's from verywellmind.com, so you can go look at the other color programming. You can Google all that stuff. Then my childhood color programming was yellow. I had yellow blinds, yellow dresser, yellow bedspread. Okay, and did I have yellow carpet? Potentially. It's been a while. I had a yellow programming, and my sister had pink programming. And so the color yellow can be bright and intense, which is perhaps why it can often evoke such strong feelings. Well, go figure. Yellow can quickly grab attention, but it can also be abrasive when overused. It can appear warm and bright, yet it can also lead to visual fatigue. Yellow can be aggressive. While it can be an energetic color, this intensity can also have a downside. Sometimes yellow can come off as very aggressive and even confrontational. I wonder. In great quantities, people may be left feeling irritated or even angry when surrounded by yellow. Well, no wonder. Oh, God. I agree that there is a level of aggression and frustration associated with yellow. The walls of my school are all yellow, and since the new building opened up, more fights have occurred in the hallways where there is most amount of yellow. Also, some of the classrooms that have yellow in them seem to be associated with more frustrated students. And that's said by Jasmine. Yeah. Color scheme program. Like in my room, it's all purple. I love it. It's nice and dark. Because when it's so bright outside, and I can feel the energy and the frequencies, and it's so bright and it's hot too, I don't go downstairs. I don't even go up to the attic because it's bright up there. I stay in this middle part of the house, and I close the door to the bathroom because there's a lot of light coming out, and I close the blinds in my room. So it's completely like really dark, and it's cool. Because I'm telling you, the light outside is like when the vampires are exposed to light, if they are a night walker, not a day walker, they disintegrate. And that's what happens out there with people. I've made that association that when you are way next to nothing and you're always outside in the sunshine all the time, and you're not, taking on the substance and releasing the demons in the proper way, you are disintegrating in the aggressive light outside. And I'll even look outside when it is certain times of the day, knowing that these frequencies are doing what it's doing with harp, CERN, and all that stuff. Even the light has a very particular hue that is different than what I usually see. It's just different. And the light hits differently. And so people are so traditional. They're out there all the time playing out there and gallivanting as if nothing has changed. They're like a vampire, disintegrating, smoking, or pixelating. And so you see they're all sparkly, right? Yeah, they're all sparkly until they disintegrate. Until then it's like, oh, then you see the hell fire and damnation. And then they start looking like zombies. Oh, that's straight allegorical, and that's straight fucking reality. That's why I don't go out too often out there, because I don't have the big body. I mean, I could do that. I could do that now potentially, but I don't even want to. I go out there and play the game, but I don't have as much to. My husband, he's out there all the time, but he's a bigger dude. If you saw a picture of him back when we were in Florida, both him and I gained a lot of weight when we were in Florida. And on the truck, because we were eating very well. We were eating high on the hog. Lobsters and porterhouse steaks and pizzas and every food you can think of, and nice vacations. And we were making a lot of money back then because he was team driving. And we didn't have a lot of expenses either. So we didn't have a boat that we're paying, $300, $400 a month on. We had a car, but it was like maybe $200 at that time. So we had a lot of extra income, and then we were just eating everything. So we really packed on the pounds, and that's probably saved both of our lives. So right now, when the frequencies changed back in 2020, he might have fainted that one time, and that was it. There was no heart attack. It was just a lot of the acid reflux that shocked him. But he's fine. And so then the last year, yeah, he was sick for a week, and I fed him last year, and then this last September he wasn't as sick. And when I felt something last night, he's like, I feel fine. I'm like, okay, fucker. So understand that when I'm sick, when I feel stuff, just understand that I react to this atmosphere way differently than you do. And some men don't understand that, and some women don't understand that with other women. That's why I got a lot of flack from other women, because they were under the influence, under drugs, and I wasn't. So I was feeling every single fucking thing, and that's why I had the PMDD, and they thought I was just lazy or stupid. No, I don't have much to me. I came in this world starving, and the frequencies are changing, and I'm very sensitive to it, and this disease is not recognized in the medical world or the holistic world, and the only thing they can treat it is with what? Birth control pills, or stay away from coffee, stay away from this, so then there's food mitigation. No, that's not going to fucking help me. It's how you characterize the symptoms is what was the issue. And I was surrounded by people who characterize symptoms as something bad that need to be drugged out, operated out, or drugged out, or diets. And when you're surrounded by those types of demons around you, if you stay in that world, you'll die in that world. I got out of that world. So Matt Perry again, he provided us with countless laughs, all the while he was killing himself with addiction so sad. Britney Spears is also suffering. The price of fame, the price of moving humanity forward, the price of being a mirror to your peers. Know when to say the party is over. You did your time. Will you survive your prior lives? People love and hate celebrities, but they are the human sacrifices. They are being given everything to keep going until they can't anymore. That's why many of them don't survive when they finally retire. That's why their own demons destroy them and they hang themselves, or they commit suicide, or they have a heart attack or a stroke, and certain times it could be manipulated in some way where it happens at the right time. Who the fuck knows? That's all speculation. But again, these celebrities are a representation that, and maybe they don't even know that that's what's going on, because they were told another story and we're told another story, and then they have our conflicts. And now some celebrities are even watching my information right now. And you have time to redirect celebrities. Maybe you weren't told maybe you were told one part of the picture, but not the big picture. Just like we're told one part of the picture, but not the bigger picture. Celebrities are probably told one part of the picture, but not the bigger picture. Okay? And so now with this information, both people, like the lay person, like here in this world, the celebrities, and even the professionals, you're getting all the pictures. Now you see the bigger picture. Merge all these thought processes together, unite all these different informations together. Now you have a chance to save yourself, not end up like a Matt Perry or anyone else. But then it means you would have to give up your fame and fortune and influence and become a regular fucking person and live humbly. Or you will be sacrificed. Yeah, I agree with that. So, I mean, this article about escape from the rabbit hole, the conspiracy theorist who abandoned his dangerous beliefs, and people were commenting on that, and I just basically said that no matter what, there's always a mixture. That when you put two beliefs together, that one can be very fantastic, the other one is plausible. You can pick and choose which one you want to believe or disbelieve, or to say, okay, I believe it all, or I don't believe any of it. But you have the choice to choose. But no matter what you believe or don't believe, will you survive your belief system? That's what it all comes down to. It doesn't matter what is true or not true. Will you survive your own belief system? And if you don't survive your own belief system, then it doesn't matter if it's true or not true, because it's irrelevant when you're fucking dead. Okay. So does humanity have to eat meat? Absolutely, but it can be lab created. And that's where the other person was arguing with me, like, oh, you have to have meat. I'm not saying you don't have to have meat, but it doesn't have to be done in a way like in a gentleman's farm or in a factory farm. It can be done in a lab. You can use cancer cells and grow meat and eat the meat that way. Eating cancer is not going to cause any harm. There's nothing wrong with cancer per se. It's how you manage life in your body is what people have an issue with. But you have to balance out your life and the juvenile cells in your body and be the one to stay alive. Or else, the cancer will kill you. Not because it's poison, it's because it was life in your body that you were competing with for resources. That's all cancer is competition for resources. That's... Write this down because that's a clarification that needs to be said. Cancer equals competition for resources from the parent, because cancer cells are basically juvenile cells. And if you can't manage a life in your body, then the children will eat you alive. That's basically what it is. And so cancer is not poison, it's just competition. Now you have to be the one to stay alive and not mischaracterize food. And so it's not eating meat that made us inhumane. It was how we came upon the meat to begin with. It was how we acquired it. We tortured sentient beings to get it. Thank God for the lab. That's all I'm going to say right now. With that. My God. All right. You can survive hellfire and damnation. Right? Deamination, the removal of a molecule group or an amino group. You just have to do things differently. Climate change equals deamination or damnation. Deamination, the removal of an amino group from an amino acid or other compound. Damnation, in Christian belief, condemnation to eternal punishment in hell. Right? And so they say when you die and you go to hell, right, that's damnation. Well, that means that one programming of your life is now done with. Now you're evolving and you're going to feel the heat. You're going to feel all the little juvenile babies try to figure out their place, king of the mountain. And so you got to figure out how to survive hell, how to survive damnation. And so what is the similar words? Condemnation to hell, eternal punishment, doom. In religion and folklore, hell is a location or state in the afterlife in which souls are subjected to punishment, suffering, most often through torture as eternal punishment after death. And so, yeah, the death of the old world right now, everyone right now in this world right now is going through a hell and damnation on some level, whether it's cancer, disease, and chronic illness, or war, or fear. They're going through a hell because it's the end of the old world. We're evolving into the new world, and it's brutal. You're going to feel the pain. You're going to see images that are brutal. Your kids are going to be going through some shit. Or they're going to be so under the influence that they'll just die suddenly and they'll never ever see pain because they were not, as soon as the environment changed, they didn't survive it. So maybe that was a blessing. They never had to suffer. Right? And so, right now in my world, I'm kind of in the after old life, transitioning to the new life. And so, yeah, last night was a hell. It was a perdition. It was a condemnation. I won't say it's eternal, but it was definitely a hell that I had to go through. And I don't even know where all of that came from. It could be what was left in my body from years ago, or it could be something because the frequencies are so intense from the real aggressive fluctuation from being really hot to cold. And the growth just happened like that. And since my immune system is so on point, it distributed the growth so it didn't coagulate in one area and turn into a fast-moving cancer or tumor. And my immune system, I had to feel the pain of the prostaglandins pushing that excessive growth out through the different orifices and then eventually out of the body. And that was necessary. And I survived it. And I still got innovation from it. I had awarenesses from that energy conversion. Climate change. Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural, but since the 1800s, human activities, regardless of what you blame it on, okay, have been the main driver of climate change. And so you can say it was contrived or organic or a fucking pattern, okay? Primarily due to the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, which produce heat-trapping gases, which, yeah, that's all a factor. All right? And then Pip was saying she's staying in bed most of the day because she's feeling stuff. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So then, this is where I was the other night. I think it was Saturday night. I was then doing so much research on Uracil. All right, let me go to the restroom. Oh, I'm feeling a little bit fatigued, but I'm okay. I'll get through this. I might sound like I'm slurring my words because I am tired. I did not sleep very well at all last night. I did not. I was in fucking pain. All right, so the J world is what's going on even in the world out there because it's breaking down of the old world like a Uracil, deamination. People are being removed out of existence through natural causes and choices. And so everything is connected, the micro world and the macro world. So breaking down of the old world so you can develop a strong, better world. It starts with Uracil. And how did I learn about Uracil? Where the hell did I learn that from? Because that's not mainstreamed. Who talks about Uracil? That comes out of your urine, right? Because I was studying DNA. I was studying Gattaca. Guanine, thymine, adenine, cytosine. And studying all the groups that go along with that, all the different molecules and atoms. Electrons, protons, neutrons. I was studying RNA, DNA. Okay, even ghosts, which are the spirit, the energy of a person missing the DNA and the RNA. And so they're just an energy with memories. Hydra, microscopic, that you can't even see, but it produces a lot of projection based upon how influential it is. And that's when you see all the different orbs during certain times. Like I saw a few orbs the last couple of weeks, or occasionally, not as much as a couple months ago. Okay? But I studied so much of the molecular biology, microbiology. I asked Google so many questions. It's the questions you ask that give you the insight. You can tell who a person is by the questions they ask. And not to another person. I don't ask people questions. I don't go and say, hey, Robert, what's a molecule? I don't ask Audrey, well, what's this? I don't ask anyone on my Facebook, what do you do for this? What's that? Guess what I do? I go to Google or chat Bing, and I ask Google the question. Now people are like, oh, well, Google is all about brainwashing. They're only going to give you the answers based upon how they want. That's fine. Because it's going to make sense anyways to what I'm doing. I'm not looking for something so way out there, in left field. They're going to give me all the different answers based upon academia, based upon the government. And then I will determine whether I want to believe it or disbelieve it or offer another scenario that they hadn't offered. That's choices you have. Either you're going to believe or disbelieve or offer another scenario, another storyline that is based in science. All right? So I don't ask anyone anything because I know that they're going to give me their biased answer or they're going to fucking Google it. Okay? So that's why I don't understand people who ask questions on Facebook to their friends. Hey, what do you do for this? What do you think of this? Why is this? Go fucking ask Google. Make your own goddamn choice. But I never understood people who ask their Facebook audience questions about things that they can Google themselves. I never understood that. That's how I learned all this information is through fucking Google. I studied, I researched myself. I didn't ask my friends, I didn't look at my friend's paper and copy their answers. That's like copying, that's cheating. When you're asking a friend, what does this mean? Go fucking find out yourself. Breaking down the old world so you can develop a strong, better world. It starts with uracil. It ends in food and release all damage. Read this whole post. This is the J world. Uracil equals evolution equals adaptation. All humans have uracil equals their immortality gene only if supported effectively. The fact that you have the ability to change and release the damage and rebuild is your immortality gene. But it's not just like a magic pill that you're also now immortal. No, it's like you release the old, so you feel the release, and you have to eat food. And that food can also cause release because it gives you the nutrition and the energy to release and also rebuild. And you might be bloated. Oh my God, you won't have a flat stomach. Oh my fucking God, you don't have a flat stomach. And you might have to get rid of your plastic boobs. Okay, that might be a requirement at some point for some people. Okay? And so the uracil is the evolution, is the immortality gene. Only if it's supported correctly. Uracil is one of the 4 nucleotides based in the RNA, with the other 3 being adenine, cytosine, guanine. In RNA, uracil pairs with adenine. In a DNA molecule, the nucleotide thymine is used in place of uracil. Uracil, the fact that uracil is presented in RNA and not DNA, contributes to the ability of RNA to be degraded easily. This allows the cell to change which genes are being expressed, as the older RNAs do not stick around very long. Okay? So that way, if it's cold outside, you have the genes to be able to handle cold. When it's hot outside, you can change. When there's something new in the environment, your body's able to assimilate to it. That's called being exposed to maybe potentially therapies, public health therapies, or when you go to like Africa in the middle of the jungle, you can take on DNA that's a little bit foreign and assimilate to it with a little bit of symptoms, release and retention. That's the way your body's supposed to work. That's called adaptation. That's called evolution. And you see people who are afraid of adaptation and evolution because they can't handle the fucking pain, they can't handle symptoms, and they go and try to remedy it away or surgically take it away or do other things to harm themselves because they don't want to feel evolution. Uracil is composed of 4 hydrogen, 4 carbon, 2 nitrogen, and 2 oxygen atoms that are bonded together. In RNA, uracil binds to adenine via 2 hydrogen bonds. In DNA, the uracil nucleobase nucleobase is replaced by thymine. Uracil is demethylated from, is a demethylated form of thymine. Remember DNA methylation? The breaking down uracil? We talked about that even during the breast cancer way back when I talk about DNA methylation as a cancer cure or a cancer protocol, when they're breaking down those types of cancer cells in the body. But that's only a temporary thing. So uracil in DNA may result from incorporation of DUMP during replication, dump, and from spontaneous or enzymatic deamination of cytosine, the breaking down of cytosine, resulting in a pair of mismatches, respectively. Uracil generated by activation-induced cytosine deamination in B cells is normal, intermediate, and adaptive immunity. Okay? Adaptive and innate immunity. Remember, adaptation. And so we learn about deamination, removal of an immunogroup from an amino acid or other compound. Typically in humans, deamination occurs when an excess in protein is consumed, resulting in the removal of an amino group, which is then converted into ammonia and expelled via urination. The deamination process allows the body to convert excess amino acids into usable byproducts. And these people who are like, hey, drink your pee, it's a healing thing, right? I see that in the freaking diet suddenly groups. Here, drink your pee, your body can heal you. Just drink your pee. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Drink your milk. That's why I stay away from the holistic group, because they're fucking psycho in that way. Why do amino acids need to be deaminated? Amino acids should be deaminated because the body cannot store amino acids or proteins. Therefore, it breaks amino acids and either uses them as energy or stores them as carbohydrates or fats after eliminating the amino group. Okay? And so, yeah, deamination is necessary. Damnation is necessary. Just survive it. You don't have to die from it. But you see now, with the whole hellfire and damnation and the evangelists, they don't want to feel it. And so what do? They lay down their life for Jesus because he died for their sins. And they don't want to go to hell, so they'll die and do good by dying and giving their life to the Lord. That was a depopulation agenda built into the Christian religion. And now look at all the different Christians out there who believe that. And okay, good for you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being the human sacrifice. Thank you for believing in Jesus. Because when you have most of the world out there, or not most, a lot of the world out there who are Christian and believe that they should die because Jesus, their Savior, died for their sins, they are giving you the option to live. Thank them for their service. Thank you, Christian, for being who you are. Thank you. Spontaneous deamination converts cytosine to uracil, which is excised from DNA by the enzyme uracil DNA glycosylase, leading to error-free repairs. Then 5-methylcytosine residues are deaminated to thymine, which cannot be excised and repaired by the system. Okay. Spontaneous. Nothing is really spontaneous, but I guess in the context it is. Mutagenic deamination of cytosine residues in DNA. Mutagenic means you're just going through an evolution. You've been exposed to something new. Your body has to go and assimilate, release, and retain. RNA, ribonucleic acid, and nucleic acid present in all living things. Its principal role is to act as a messenger carrying an instruction from DNA for controlling the synthesis of proteins, although in some viruses, RNA rather than DNA carries the genetic information. Okay, so the primary function of RNA is to create proteins via translation. All right, so when you are going to be exposed to something that is new, yes, there is mRNA therapies, but you're also getting mRNA from everyone you hang out with, regardless if they're therapized or not. RNA is the body's ability to change and then make copies based upon that change. And there's uracil that breaks it down, and then you take that information and it alters the immune system a bit to take on that information. It doesn't mean it alters you, exponentially, but if you are deaminating at a faster rate than you are bringing your body back to regular balance, then yeah, people start breaking down. And then when people have strokes and heart attacks and half their body is like drooping, or they are so skinny, or they've lost so much collagen, or there's, you see what happens when people have been damaged to such an extent because of the lack of food, the lack of release, the lack of balance. They've allowed the RNA, the damaged RNA, to replicate. They didn't fix their DNA and RNA. No, they allowed the damaged RNA inside their body to replicate, and that's why they end up in hospice and dead. DNA photocopy mRNA as a coupler between genetic code and the protein building blocks tRNA as a structural component of ribosomes rRNA. Translation, as related to genomics, is a process through which information encoded in messenger RNA directs the addition of amino acids during protein synthesis. Okay, translation. Remember Lost in Translation, that movie? Oh, I loved it, with Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson in Japan. Yeah, Tokyo, Japan. Too much uracil equals apoptosis. There's so many ways to say it. I've said it so many different ways. Apoptosis, apoptosis. All right, so too much uracil equals a programmed cell death. I'll just say that. It originates from two independent processes, cytosine deamination and DUTP misincorporation. Uracil is naturally identified and removed by DNA repair enzymes. However, excessive accumulation of uracil in DNA and repair can result in DNA strand breaks and lead to P53 or PARP mediated apoptosis. The death of a cell, which occurs as a normal and controlled part of an organism's growth and development. What foods are high in uracil? Now, you'd be like, whoa, what foods are high in breaking down the body, right? Well, outside of the human body, uracil is found on average in the highest concentration within beers. So when you're an alcoholic and drinking beer, you're breaking your body down. That's why the guys get the big gut, right? Beer bellies. Girls, beer bellies, all right? Uracil has also been detected but not quantified in several different foods such as radishes, green beans, cauliflowers, prickly pears, and citrus. So you don't want to have too much citrus. Like people are like, oh, I'm all about the lemons. You drink lemon juice, all the fucking holistic people. Deaminating their body. Deamination, uracil. And radishes are very spicy. I don't eat radishes. Cauliflower, okay, cauliflower is good. I don't do too much cauliflower. I don't hardly do any cauliflower. I do cabbage, maybe kale, but I do cabbage, carrots, maybe mushrooms, a lot of tomatoes, and I'll do like a mango juice. I don't go crazy on the fucking vegetables. I don't do the spicy food. Nope. Which is why I recommend all these foods develop a potential path to immortality along with other factors. So, meat, fish, and dairy are high in DNA protective nutrients like carnitine, creatine, NADH, and coenzymes, Q10. If you do not eat meat, focus on fish, especially fatty fish like salmon and sardines. Some research suggests that omega-3s can ward off DNA damage in vascular cells. But here's the thing, you need the beef and the chicken. But you should eat all meat, not just, you need to eat all the meat. Okay? That's why I recommend the meat, the fish, the dairy, because they are high in DNA protective nutrients. So I was like, oh, I'm against milk, I'm against meat, I'm against eggs, or I'm against, I don't know. I gotta only do goat milk. Dude, okay, they're gonna make milk out of yeast. Lab-created milk will be developed out of yeast. They will be milking yeast animals, okay? We will not be torturing animals anymore in the future, eventually. And so, overview, L-carnitine is a chemical. What is carnitine, right? People are like, what the hell is carnitine? That is made in the human brain and kidneys. It helps the body turn fat into energy. L-carnitine is important for heart and brain functions, muscle movement, and many other body responses. So people are like, I'm against milk, and I'm against meat. And so, yeah, that's why you don't see too much intelligence out there who are the vegetarians. They're all about love, love, love. But that's death and reproduction. That's death. That's the sex demons. And having a bunch of babies. All right. And so meat, poultry, fish, dairy products are the richest sources of L-carnitine, while fruits, vegetables, and grains contain relatively little carnitine. But you still need the grains and need the fruits and vegetables, because when I always had that what was that called? Oh my God, my brain's not functioning because I'm fucking tired. Gas reflux, whatever, acid reflux. I ate a bit of, I just had some raw cabbage and I shit all that acid reflux out. It was like that quickly. And so sometimes when you have to regulate your body because of stupidity like I was that day, yeah, a thing of cabbage just released the demons. I don't even do any salt and water. I just ate raw cabbage and it released that demon. And so, so that's why I made that soup with so much cabbage and carrots and chicken and the canned cream of chicken and tomatoes, because I'm telling you, in this environment, you will need all the nutrients you can get. You can't afford to be picky about anything. You cannot. Okay? Oh, I'm fucking tired. I swear to God, I'm tired. And so that girl died. Okay, I'm actually down to. Oh, yeah. I'm going to read this last thing as just a wrap up. Sexual slavery was built into the family. Animal breeding is sexual slavery for those animals being forced to have sex and have babies to sell in the open market. And then people become saints because they think they're saving animals they have bred to slave. The veterinary system causes animals to breed, and then more destruction by the spay and neuter. And then you're forced to put the animal down when it tries to evolve because the animals are too damaged or there wasn't a support system for that evolution. Humans aren't any different in this day and age. Who needs enemies when you have friends and family like this? Friends and family will save themselves by ending your life because they can't handle your suffering because they're suffering. That is the danger of surrounding yourself by people who think they should die someday, who can't handle suffering. They will end your life to save theirs. Now look at the remedy world, ending your life by saving themselves, by taking your money, and they cannot support your change. You changing to evolve to save yourself. So in order to save themselves, they will ply you with remedies until it is rest and peace for everyone involved. That's a lot of friends and families out there who claim to promote life. Look at all the moms selling their MLMs to everyone around them. Their side gig, using their children as props. That's the world out there. That's why you've accepted it in politics. That's what you've accepted in politics, religion, and science. If it means sacrificing you for a short amount of time to keep themselves alive for a short amount of time, that's also many friends out there too. Okay, when people are selling you stuff or recommending you take a remedy for something. These daughters and sons don't stand a chance with these traditional parents. Human family vampirism. The pets don't also stand a chance either. They're getting antibiotics shoved down their throat until the body fights back and dies, or it develops a huge growth and then surgery destroys the animals over time. Who needs enemies when you have friends and family like that? That's the Manson family. That's what he represented. That is why that's what you've accepted for centuries. That's why you believe everyone should die someday, because it was built into your culture and religion. The Nephilim, the giants, did this to humanity. And so if you want to blame someone, blame the giants that trained their offspring how to destroy through alchemy and through war and through the family. Now the system is trying to breathe that out of the society so we don't have a repeat. So I'm going to go, but I'm tired and I'm exhausted. And I'm not like in pain, but I feel like I fought a battle last night. And it was a formidable battle. It was a painful battle that I fought last night. But I have the body to me. That's why you need the body, guys. Because when that energy shifts, will you survive it?